Okay, Shannon, go ahead. We're coming out of recess.
Okay, so let's look at the second page, starting at 1 o'clock. Michael Bloomer is here. Jay Freeman is here. We're expecting Kelly Weisgram to show up. Let's start with Michael Bloomer.
Let's make sure the commissioners know the last ones that were on, the first set at 11:10 to 12 o'clock. They're going to speak after we do the three people, that are here at the 1 to 2:30. Yes, and those are
Yeah.
all phone calls.
Bridgewood and Cole are expecting a phone call. We'll try to fit them in when we get done with the people that cared enough to show up.
Thank you, Shannon.
All right, Mr. Bloomer.
Trevor? Go ahead, Trevor, when you're ready.
Good afternoon. My name is Michael Bloomer, and I live at 10408 Glen Haven Court, which is 7 miles west of Rapid City, out by the High-Sega area. And to save time, I would like to just hand you my appeal so that you can read it in its entirety.
Thank you, sir.
If you've got any questions, we can discuss it.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Bloomer, we're going to let Trevor go first, sir.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you, sir. Trevor?
Okay. All right. My name is Trevor Abernathy with Pennington County Equalization. The property we're discussing here is owned by Michael Bloomer, and the tax ID is 43479. Like he said, it's about 7 miles out or so off of High-Sega Road and Gunderson Road, and the Glen Haven Court comes right off of Gunderson there. The assessed value for the property is $40,000 on the land, $114,500 on the structures, for a total of $154,500, and I'm recommending no change to this assessment. This property is located in the Evergreen Valley subdivision. It's, again, just off of High-Sega Road there. The land is 0.48 acres, so just under half an acre, and there is community water and a private septic on site. The residence is an in-unit townhouse with 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom that was built in 1985, and it has 1,114 square feet with no basement. This includes 140 square foot addition that was built in 2008. Like many townhouses, there is an association fee. It includes snow removal and pine and weed spraying up there. The residence also has a finished 2-car attached garage that is 460 square feet. And we have this home in average condition, which is defined as having an evidence of some deferred maintenance with normal wear for the age. A few minor repairs and refinishing are needed, but overall it's well maintained. Specifically, the roofing is newer, the siding is older. Some of the flooring has been replaced. Majority of the windows are older, but there's a couple that are new from that addition that was done in 2008. Kitchen has original cabinetry, but does have updated countertops, and the bathroom has been updated a bit. Then if you want to show the photos of the shop, Ann, there's also a detached shop building that was built in 2015, has 14-foot eaves, and is 1,450 square feet. It's roughly 26 by 48 with a small addition off the back. I do have 5 comparable sales that support the assessed value of the subject property and indicates that our value is representative of market value. If you want to go to those sales, Ann. Now, these sales are a similar year build from 1976 to 1985. They're all similar size. First one there is 1,068 square feet and has an attached garage of 434 square feet. And it does sit on a smaller acreage there, 0.14. Same year build as the subject property, and this one sold for $170,000 in 2017. The next one there is does have a basement under it, so you would need an adjustment there, but it's 992 square feet above grade. That one sold for $133,700. The other last 3 there are all around that 1,000 to 1,100 square foot range. They sold from 129.5 to 145. and none of these have the detached shop building. One thing to note, these are just to support our value. Our value is not set directly off of these 5 comparable properties here on this property. We're actually using a cost approach to value, which is one of the approaches that we use, dictated by the state. We're able to use that approach to value where we find a land value and we determine the cost to construct the improvements and subtract out any depreciation to find market value. So that's what we have done on the subject property. These comparables here are in town, so they are in the city limits, and he is about 7 miles out Remrock. But they do help support the value that we have on it. There was some discussion of an issue with us not having a direct comparable sale up here that was in the county. I do have one that's just a little bit older. It's just over 3 years old. It's tax ID 575. If you want to go to that one, Ann, 575 again is the number. And this one is just on the edge of town. It's also out Rimrock Highway. It is a 2-story structure, but has a larger area on the bottom level. And overall, it's about 1,500 square feet. And this sold in October of 2015 for $215,000. Again, this is 1 story with a small 2-story above it, no basement, and does have an attached garage on 0.15 acres. And based on the information that I found with the comparable sales and the information in the market here, I'm again recommending no change to the assessment. Once more, that's $40,000 on the land, $114,500 on the townhouse and detached shop building for a total of $154,500.
Thank you, Trevor. Sir, Mr. Booth?
Okay. As you can see by what I put down as a third comp, what Dick Maresca had said is that after him doing some of his research in the Pennington County, he could really find no other comparable because of all the differences of it. One being that this is in a 55 and older community out in the country, and that does eliminate 51% of your potential buyers because the average median age of a buyer is 49 years old. The comps that Trevor had just mentioned, there's a lot of differences on them. Even the last one that he just mentioned, it's 600 square feet difference. It's a 2-story. It's on 1.5 acres, where mine is on a half an acre. So even Trevor had a real tough time, I believe, trying to find anything that was anywhere as close. And so I do believe that it's very hard to find something that's comparable. If there were more demand for these kinds of townhomes out in the country, more would have been built. And from my research from a couple years ago, I came up with 14 different townhomes. And of those 14 that I tried to get as close as I could to our 3 properties out there, 7 of them had a sale that was less than the previous sale. So it's not that unusual for townhomes not to increase in value. And so that's why I'm asking for, instead of mine being assessed at $154,500, I'm simply asking for it to go down to $150,000, so that it wouldn't have the 7% increase on the residential area. The other 2, one of them had a 3% increase this year, and the other one last year had a 1% increase, and mine had a 7% increase this year. Mine is fixed up a little bit better than the one that had a 2.75% increase. Mine was fixed up 3 years ago a little bit better than that, but every year mine has gone up higher than that one. So my thought is I would like to see mine go up by the 2.75%, just like my direct next neighbor did, because mine has already been increased for the small improvements that I made on it.
So Michael, this property, you mentioned that you have 3, so do you own 3
No,
of these?
I own one of the 3, but they're all 3 connected, and they're the only ones out in the country like that.
Okay, but I mean, this is your property you're living in?
Yes, it is my primary.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
So I'll try it. 150,000, it'd be my motion for this property.
Second for discussion.
Yeah, second for discussion? Discussion?
Explain your, go ahead. Explain your reasoning.
I agree with him on the percentage that it went up. The property, looks like before it sold for 112, but then he did add a shop to it, so there is some value with it. To me, it just sound, very comparable to what, Trevor had put for 142 or 154.5. And I thought, it sounded like a fair value and comparable to what was, up on top of the screen. So,
If I could address something there.
Trevor?
I know he was comparing his to the one right adjacent to his, which is a middle townhouse unit. There are some differences in that property. His property is 152 square feet larger in living area and also has another stall to the garage, in addition to having that shop building in the back as well. So there are some differences taken into account when we look at the property value as a whole, which changes the percentage of increase per year.
But Trevor, then you only added $4,500 difference onto that. If it had what you just said, it seems like it would be then a lot more money than the 154.5. So if we put 150 instead of 154.5, based on that, I mean, I guess to me, that's not much of a difference for what you just said for the comparables. How about that? Does that make sense?
The middle townhouse unit is not assessed for 150.
Okay.
So there are some significant differences with condition and everything. So I don't know about the 150. I think that was Mr. Bloomer's number, so I'm not sure where
Right,
that
but
comes from.
yours was 154.5.
Correct.
So you said he had a certain amount more square footage, he had a certain amount of different things, but your difference is only $4,500.
Between the number that you suggested and that one, that is correct.
Yes,
I
sir.
just wanted to explain the differences between the property that he was comparing his to as far as the percentage increase per year.
Trevor,
Okay,
that
Trevor.
center unit, what's the cost per square foot?
The what?
The center unit, assessed value, cost per square foot.
If I can answer that question, that's highlighted in my assessment.
His comparables?
The
What number's
three-
that, what number's that comp?
That would be
Michael?
comp number 2. And that has a value of $71 per square foot when you figure the residential portion of it. Mine right now is assessed at $83 a square foot. And, I'm sorry, did I say that right? Yes. And the property that is attached to it, one of those 3 properties, sold in 3/30 of 18, so it sold barely, longer than a year ago, and it was bought for $67 a square foot. Now, but mine right now, if Trevor is asking that mine be assessed at $83 a square foot versus the one that was just recently bought and was bought for $67 a square foot.
Let me ask one question. I remember this from last year.
Okay.
So how many times have you appealed? I mean, when we see this 6% or 7% increase, how much did we not, I mean, I'm sure we did the same things we did before. We gave a break and now all of a sudden this year it goes back up to what it should have been. You know what I'm saying? So then the increase looks like it's bigger
Right.
than if we're doing the 2 or
Can-
3.
Can we see last year's? Can you pull up, last year's assessment? Or the
I have-
previous years, Deb?
Well, why is looking, and the reason why I say that is I look at the 154 and I'm doing the square footage. That shop kind of really adds a lot to that property. I mean, that's a big shop with the property in the back. So that's what makes yours stand out that much more than everybody else's. I think you got more driveway, you got more, I understand what you're talking about with the 55 and older, but I live on a street where I have a lot of that, even though it's in town. But Is that,
And you can
Go
see
ahead.
that I'm not appealing the land or the shop on here. I'm only appealing the residential.
okay, Trevor's
I
gonna,
do have an answer for that. Last year, the recommendation for the assessed value from our office was 151,000, even. So the difference between that and our recommendation this year is 2.32%. It was changed by board action to the 146 last year.
last year,
Yes.
so, and that's why it's, okay.
Yep.
That was my,
I'll offer a substitute motion. I would make a substitute motion that we accept the assessor's assessment on this property.
There's been a motion, is there a second?
Second.
Second, motion made by Drew, second by DeSanto for a substitute for 154.5. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Freeman is here.
Mr. Freeman, sir? Rod, do you want to speak first and then Mr. Freeman? If that's okay?
I can certainly go first unless you would like me to.
Nope, Rod, it works a little, yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good
Rod.
afternoon, Board. My name is Rod Slett, and I'm with the Equalization Office. We received the appeal from Mr. Freeman, and I have a recommended value of 309,100. That's what the assessment went out as, and that's a fair value, and my recommendation is to uphold that value. I did provide Mr. Freeman with some comparables. We have some really good comparables in this area. Just a really quick overview. I did look at the sales of all 5 of these comparables, and just as just a quick analysis, took the square footage of the living up above grade into the sale price. The average for all 5 of those comps is about $156 per square foot. The square foot assessment here is 138. So we're under what some of these comps are showing. All these comps are really good for this area. They're new sales. This particular home is a 1966 build. Really not a lot of changes have been made to it. It's a fairly original home, but it's been well maintained. It's an average, just a little bit better than an average, what we call an average plus home. 3 beds, 3 baths, a lot of similarities in the comparables, and I think we have a really solid value here. I guess just one last thing, if you've read the kind of the summary, the original sale price, obviously sales are the most important thing that we have in determining a value, so if we have the sale of this very home, then that's a pretty good indicator of market value. So this home sold for $285,000 in 2006, so 13 years ago, and our current value is $309,100. So over 13 years to see less than 1% difference is well below what the market indicates. Now that also indicates that the purchase price was probably more than market value at that time, which wasn't uncommon in 06, 07. Some of those sales were probably a little bit higher in that particular year. So I think he maybe overpaid a little bit in 06, but that's why our value in 06 was lower than what Mr. Freeman paid.
Well, just a question, Rod. So if you look at the numbers, they really fluctuate up and down bad, maybe because of market, of course. You got 16 at 278.8, you have 17 at 298.1, then in 18 is 289, then in 19 it's 309. So you go, there's like 20,000 difference there, and then another 11 there, or I'm sorry, 9 there, can't add. So what makes it fluctuate that much? I mean, is Jay improving this property differently, or?
No, the simple answer to that is we're looking at a neighborhood. So this is in the Pinedale Heights area. When we're looking at our sales, we're going to draw our comparables from whatever we define as a neighborhood. This neighborhood was too large in previous years. It was Pinedale Heights, it was Kingswood, it was Northbury, it was a very, very large neighborhood. So last year, we pulled, we separated the neighborhood out. We made them smaller groups. So now the comparables are more similar to each other. So this home, which is a nice larger home that's in with the Pinedale Heights homes, previously was being compared to a lot of the smaller, older homes on smaller tracks that are closer to the high school. And so once we were able to separate the homes out and kind of put these qualities together, these qualities together, these qualities together, now our comparables are a lot better. And so that's what caused a little bit of the fluctuation. Some of the technical term would be a regression. We were undervaluing high-value homes because it was in a group where there was a lot of low-value homes. Those low-value homes were pulling down the values of the more expensive homes.
There you go.
So that's why we saw that decrease in 18.
Okay. Thank you, Rod. Mr. Freeman, sir.
Yes, thanks for allowing me to speak today. Start off by saying that last year the value of the house was $278. This year Rod evaluated it at $309,100, which is a 6.96% increase, almost 7%, which equivalates to about $500 or so per year increase. So he went from 278 to 309, and I asked him for some comparables, and the ones that he gave me aren't up there. One he gave me was $485,000, and I could tell you all about it, but you can see the information there and see if you think that it's a comparable. Because anyway, 485 was one comparable down at the bottom, at the end of the street. Another one was 200,000. And so I said, Rod, these aren't comparable at all. So about 2 hours later, he calls me back and says, I got some more comparables for you. Well, they're still not up there. So he's revamped it again. And they've been out to my house four out of the last 6 years to look at my house. Nothing has changed. There's been no improvements. And I was told by him that the average increase per year that they like to do is 2.32% increase. Well, they went 6.96% increase, which is $500 approximately, maybe a little less. And so I just don't understand the big jump, because that's quite a bit of money for a homeowner to pay $500 more per year. And with no improvements, and they've been out to my house 4 out of the last 6 years to find something that isn't there. And I have made, like I said, no improvements. I'm not happy about that, but I just don't have the money to do it. But I need a new driveway. I need a lot of things done. And I haven't done them, so I guess that's why they're coming out to see all the improvements that I made, and I haven't made them, so now they're increasing it up to 6.96. So I'd just like to ask for a reduction down to about 2.2 or 3% increase, and which would be somewhere around 290 something. And so I just think that it's way too high, 6.96%, to ask a homeowner to pay $500 extra in 1 year. And it's all based on what is all going on in the neighborhood with the school district and all the other information. But last year it was 278, now it's 309.1, and that's a large increase for a homeowner to pay.
Sir, it's 289 right now in 2018 and 309.1 this year. Did you know that?
309.
Because last year was 289, sir, Mr. Freeman.
Okay, 289. Okay, I'm sorry.
That's
Then we'll
okay.
go 289.
Yes,
Sorry
sir.
about that.
That's okay, sir.
So 289, so that's 10, 11, $20,000 increase, which is 6.96.
So
Rod?
did we have, sorry,
Go ahead.
do we have the same thing with this? I mean, how did we go down minus 3% in 2018? Did the board reduce it last year?
Somebody did.
No, the reason that it went down in 2018 was what I was trying to address as far as the comparables.
Okay,
The
so that was-
neighborhood, we basically created another neighborhood, so we have like homes grouped together. So this being a little bit better quality, higher value home, the value was being brought down because that entire area had lower quality, lower homes, lower valued homes, so.
And so now the 2019, you've seen the market and seen some sales from that area, so you were able to do it better. Okay.
Yeah, we've refined, we created a new neighborhood, we've refined it, so now it's being compared to more similar homes.
Thanks.
Gary?
No, that was my question.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
go ahead, DeSanto first, Ron.
Okay.
There you go.
Sir, if you take the 2.32% that Shannon suggests that it should be increased each year, it comes up over the past 3 years. If you take it over the past 3 years, starting out at $289,000, it comes up to exactly $309,000.
The 2 years before, 2.3, 2.32, 2.32, and 2.32, just three of them,
Yeah.
6.96. So he's making up for the last 2 years now, and this year, he's making up for the 2 years that he didn't, that it went down.
But as he said, it averages out over that 3-year period of time.
I thought each year was for what the statistics showed. Whatever you come up with, the school district, all the information that you come up with, that's what you go on. You don't just go on what you want to increase it per year.
Well,
Because
actually-
that's what they told me. They want to increase it 2.32 per year. So it didn't go up the last 2 years, so now they tacked it on to the third year.
Actually, what it more so goes by isn't that percentage that he's talking about. It goes by what houses are selling for and the increases in values in those, on those properties in your neighborhood.
Are those comparables? 367, 2, 399, 334, 330.
They're all higher.
I know they're all higher, so why are they comparables? That's my question.
Sir, when you do comparables, they take the
square
same thing
footage.
of your square footage of your house and the land, how much land is there, and basically your square, what's in your house, and they do comparables in your neighborhood and what those houses sold for. And then they sold for more than what your house is worth. Than what your house is worth, they sold for more.
But
with
that's
the
what raised
comparables.
that's what raised my percentage up, is comparing it to something that's not comparable.
And I think, I understand, guys, where he's coming from in a sense, because you go from -3 and then the next year you're 6.95 or you're 27% or you're whatever percentage. I understand that even though we split and I'm understanding what you're saying, Rod, but I also understand when you're trying to pay your taxes and you go from -3 and then the next year you're 7%, just because you missed the boat, people are having to make that up. I mean, it's not like this is a $100,000 house, but it's still a percentage that. So I'm understanding and I'm listening to people that have these big of changes in a sense. And so I understand why they're getting mad, because it's your job, Rod, to do this the right way, and you just followed the law. But it starts at -3% and then goes to 7. I know you split the neighborhoods and you guys were doing comparables because some were lower end and some were higher end. But it still comes down to 7% or 10% because we missed the boat because we were doing something a little bit different than what we were.
Sure, and if I
So
can.
I'm understanding his frustration with it, so.
And if I could just make a comment, we deal, when the assessments go out,
Yes, sir.
and then homeowners are looking at them, the number one thing that we get a response on is the percent change.
Right.
And to be maybe too blunt, I really don't care about the percent change. The only thing I care about is this value representative of market value? So we can get a little too fixated on the percent change.
Right.
The truth is, this house is well worth 309,100. It's worth
Right.
probably more. We have that this basement is nearly unfinished. It's an original home. The market is indicating that these homes are selling for more than what we have them assessed for. We're below most of the sales in Pinedale Heights. So to look at the value is what we do. If someone brings in something with a percent change, honestly, I really don't care. I want to know, is this value representative of market?
Okay,
Period.
Rod, so, if the value in 17 was 298,100, and then you guys decided that you split the neighborhoods because of value, and then in 2018, you lowered it to 289, did you start doing what you were doing last year, so that's why it came back up? Or did this start
Yeah,
when you wanted?
last year was when we made the changes because we saw that we were well below the sales, so we had to make an adjustment.
So in 17, it seems like you were there, and then in 18, you lowered it because you still didn't have your groupings together. And so now in 2019, you decided 309, 100 because of sales. And like you said, to me, it doesn't matter in percentages in one sense, but the percentages are affected by how much those houses are being sold for, as you say. But I also feel for the other side when you're trying to figure out a budget or how much something is, and you don't care how much, the percentage is, but it's still a tax on 309 from 289. To me, that does make a difference for some people because you do. I mean, you figure a certain amount, maybe 2-3% a year that your taxes go up because you got to pay them. You got to help with infrastructure and things in the county, but I can feel where you go up a certain amount because bottom line is, Rod, you're doing your job, but I still see the other side of it that, we made a mistake or we didn't have our 4 category people or more people in the area to make sure it was fair market value. So then we come in and say, we screwed up, we should have done this differently. Now you're $20,000 more.
And we will usually, to the benefit of the taxpayer, when there is a decrease,
Yes, sir.
we're generally not going to say, oh, this actually should be higher, we're going to raise it, even though they had a decrease. In fact, we rarely get people coming in to appeal a decrease, so it would be hard to follow that logic necessarily, how you're going to fix something when it goes down.
Thank you, Rod. And you're not doing anything wrong. Sometimes I just don't get some of how we do it. And maybe it's heartfelt, who knows?
Madam Chair.
So, Commissioner DeSanto?
Oh, I guess I started and then Martin jumped in. But you're getting a heck of a deal, Jay. I mean, buying it for 285 and your comparables are up to 360. I understand when you start looking at these numbers and we start talking about some percentages. I've had some properties that have jumped 10, 12, 13%. And I mean, I have, but to look at some of the comparables that you have, I think if we try to make adjustments, sooner or later, we got to do it.
That's right.
If we put it off this year, then it's going to be next year. And then, so once we try to get it right, I think that's the most fair thing to do.
Well, let me ask this.
Mr. Freeman, sir.
What if next year they just decide they want to change the neighborhood again to make more money for the county and the city?
Sir, that's not fair.
No, I
Okay.
know, but I mean, that
It's
seems to
not
be what
about-
has happened here.
Well, that's not what I'm saying is to make more money for the county, and that's not what I'm saying Rod did. He's doing his job.
Yeah.
They did split up what they said, but I totally understand that, but you've been in the neighborhood 16, 17, 18, and 19, and that's what I'm saying. It's so fluctuating on these people that, do you see where I'm going, guys? I know it's worth what you're saying in one sense, and the other, it's just like, so how do we make it so it's not so fluctuating? As Loy says, 10%, 15, 12%. I mean, it just doesn't, because I could see if you're not in the neighborhood, remember, because we only do certain neighborhoods every 6 to 7 years, we reappraise. But if you're in the neighborhood every year, and then this year we have a different way of doing it, which I understand, but maybe
And to address that, we've made visits to his property because he appealed every year, so we went out there because he appealed.
thank you.
Not 4 out of 6 years that I appeal it.
Madam Chair.
So,
It didn't happen.
So, sir, that's, okay, hold on just a sec, I'm wrong then. So, Rod, I wasn't getting that then. I thought you were just, and same with Weiss's, when that came up, Weiss. I was like, why do these guys go to these guys' house every year and not other people's every year?
No.
You just answered it, Rod. So, I apologize. So,
Madam Chair.
sir,
I'm with Lloyd. I'm gonna kind of beg your pardon, Jay, but if we take, and I'm looking at all of those comparables that he had up there, and they are comparable. Square footage wise, size wise, year built wise,
Price-wise?
not price wise,
Yeah.
because you're getting under assessed, in my opinion. If you took an average of the square footage cost of those other homes that are comparable as far as number of bedrooms, square footage, everything else, you're gonna come up with $152 a square foot, which makes your assessed value $346,580.
Would somebody pay
So you
that?
probably don't want to, a lot of those other people are paying that. So I would say you should be happy with your 309,000 because frankly, we're under assessing if you take the average price per square foot of those other houses in your neighborhood.
Okay, I got an extra $500 I can just throw in every year.
I understand, my taxes went up too, and I
No,
don't,
but 7%?
Mr.
more than
Freeman?
that.
Mr. Freeman, hold on just a sec. Any other discussion on
Madam
this?
Chair,
Commissioner Roskinek.
when you filled out your appeal form, Jay, did you come down and meet with Rod face to face?
I think we just talked on the phone, didn't we?
Yes.
And then he provided you with some sales, but they weren't these sales?
Oh, none of those, no. One of them was 485,000, and two of them were 200,000. And I said, these aren't comparables. And so he wouldn't want to work it out with me, so I said, well, I've got to try to appeal to someone who can help me.
I don't know what sales those were, but these sales, I'm just looking. First thing I do when I look for comparable sales, I try to find one as close to the subject property as possible, and I'm just taking a quick glance here backwards. But they all look like they're in Berry Pine. And as Mark said, if we just do an average, it's not what the end price is. We look at a unit value on a per square foot basis. That's the unit of measure that we're using so if you got 1,000 square feet and then we're using 160, it's 160 times 1,000. If you got 2,000 square feet, we're still using the same unit price. What makes the change is the size of the unit. If we use Mark's $152 a square foot and apply that times your square footage, you're going to be way over 390 or 3091. So as Mark indicated, we're at, I think, 130 or 132 a square foot.
Right.
Or 138, and so that is actually well below the average, which I don't know why these things increase how they do, but I don't think that's what we're here talking about today. We're just looking at what we think the market value of your property is.
I have one additional question for Rod.
Commissioner DeSanto.
The square footage is the living area square footage 2236 plus the basement?
As far as the analysis that you guys are making, that's just the above grade, so it's just a 2236.
That's, okay, so that's the number I came up with.
Yeah, that's,
I just wanted to let you know, I didn't even include the basement. So
Basements.
and there are comparable sales that sold for less than his value, so they're not all.
I just wanted to make sure I did it right.
Is there a motion?
I'd make the motion to uphold the current value at 309,100.
Second.
Motion by LaCroix, second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Freeman.
Thank you, Board.
Geigels aren't here. Joe has a recommendation on those, and then we'll go to Wisegram, who is here.
Thank you. Joe, please.
So parcel 16553, Norman Geigel. I'm making a recommendation of 257,900. The land value is 131,500. The agricultural buildings are 30,900. The house is 105,500, and then they get their $10,000 exemption for ag buildings, which totals 157.9.
Is that your motion?
Could we clarify which one we're on?
Oh, I'm
What's the
sorry.
number?
We're on Mr. Geigel, 16553, number 3, on the 1 o'clock to 2:30.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, sir. And he's recommending 157,
257.9.
257.9, sorry.
Give me a moment.
You're on number 3. Yes, sir.
Joe, can you tell me, in Wall, is this in the town area or is it south of the freeway?
This is north.
North of the freeway
Yeah, let me pull it up.
or north of town?
North of Wall.
Joe, did the landowner agree with these assessments now?
Yeah, he agreed with the recommendation I have.
Okay, on both
So-
of them?
It's two different people, but yeah.
Okay.
Move for
So-
approval.
Second.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Ross Connect. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. 62175, Joe Joshua Geigel on this one.
And it's right next to this first one, which is way out there. And the recommendation I'm making is 122,700. That's 69,100 for the land. Agricultural building is 2,100. The non-agricultural building is 53,600. And they get the exemption of 2,100 for the egg buildings for the total of 122,700.
Joe,
motion?
I have a correction on that here, showing on this anyway. The non-ag building, 53,400, not 53,600.
Oh, yep.
Okay.
So Joe, yours was, again, the land and the buildings?
Yeah,
Can you tell us those again, Joe?
the land value is 69,100.
Okay,
The ag building is 2,100. The non-ag building is 53,600,
okay,
and they get a $2,100 exemption for the ag building.
okay.
That totals 122,700.
Do you have motion or discussion?
Move to approve at Joe's recommendation.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Mr. Wisegram, please. And Joe again. Popular today, Joe.
At the moment, anyway. So let me pull this property up. This is parcel 49586. Again, this property was part of the agricultural reappraisal that we did this past summer. Properties within that reappraisal, some of them increased a lot, some of them went down. This one did go up some, and I'll go ahead and, but that happens within a reappraisal. So on March 27th, I did a interior visit to the home. The home is a good quality home. It's in good condition. This home, it's right about where the cursor is there. Do you have that map? This one? Which one? I'm talking to Ann. Sorry.
I don't have it loaded
Oh. I made a really nice map that was supposed to be able to pop up, but we don't have it. But, so this home, as you can see, it's on 40 acres of land, so there's privacy. It has a septic system and a private well. There's no water restrictions. The county doesn't maintain the drive. It does maintain Sheridan Lake Road. This home as they say in real estate terms, has location, location, location. It's a great spot. This land of 40 acres is valued at $4,500 or $112 per acre. The house itself is valued at $355,300 on cost, replacement cost new, less depreciation. The total assessment in 2019 was $359,800. That's the land and the house. So I do have some comparables. I'll
Oh,
give
can we
you
s-
these.
Can we see that map, and I'll just pass it down that you were gonna show
Sure.
us? I'll just pass.
Madam
it.
Chair. Joe, what's the floor area above grade?
Yeah, I got that right here.
Okay.
Thank you.
Here's the comps on this side, and then on the back side, it's square footage.
Thank you, Joe. Thanks, Joe.
It's easy. The comps here.
So the first comp, so what I did, because agricultural properties don't just populate the comparable sales, because we value them on cost. And so when we were talking about the different houses around and how they're different values or whatever. So I tried to look for comparable sales within the area to check our value to see if our cost value was okay. So what I did then was I went to the neighborhoods. I got a house in Red Rocks, one in Wildwood. I think there's one down here. There was 4 different comparable sales that I used, but I can't compare the land because this is 40 acres for 4,500, and these have, where is it? Oh, the first one is 0.48 of an acre, the next one is 1.71, the next one is 1.31, 1.89, so, and the values on those lands are a lot more because of them being within a residential area. So I stripped the land value off of the subject property as well as the other properties to see where I was at. So so the first comp to property is similar in quality and construction and size. It's a bit newer. It has a similar garage size. That property sold for $412,000, but when you take the land out, it's sold for $362,600. The second comp is again a property similar in quality construction. The home is older and has a bigger garage, but it's also a bigger house. That house sold for $515,000. When you take the land out, it's $414,900. The third comp is again similar construction. It's older. It's got a bigger garage, a little bit bigger square footage. The property sold for $410,000, and less the land is $320,700. The final comp is much bigger. It's a
Ron, will you pass the comp paper down so DeSanto and Lloyd can see it?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
It was bigger square footage, 3,463 square feet. But again, I just felt that it sold for 370 with that land. I think that just indicates that properties in this area easily sell for the assessed value of that house, which is $355,300. On the back of that sheet that I gave you, there's the square footages. You can see that they're fairly comparable. And so estimating the market value of improved ag properties in urban areas, it's complex. A conservative estimate of market sale price for the Wisegram property would be $800,000. The comparable properties I have listed support the subject assessed structure value as market. There are properties within the city limits of Rapid City that are on their own well and their own septic systems. The market has not shown that there needs to be an adjustment for those factors. The subject property is similar to these that has their own septic and wells. The subject and the comparable properties have utility, and the value of the subject is not diminished due to the lack of availability of city or county services. This property also offers amenities that urban properties do not have, like privacy. So my recommendation is that there's no change to the value overall of the whole property, which is $359,800.
Thank you, Joe. Mr. Wisegram?
Thank you. After having Joe come out and visit with him a little bit and actually do a walkthrough, I understand the county's got to raise taxes, our infrastructure, our roads and everything else. But I know you said earlier, I don't like to go by percentages, but that's really the only way I can really base mine. Because in 2017, I went from 286 on the structure, in 2018 to 293, to 2019, another 21% increase to 359. That's why I'm just having a hard time when Joe does his comparison, looking at some of the city stuff that I don't have. I maintain my little road to go into my place. When the water goes down, the well went out and the pump went out, I chose to live out there. That was my responsibility. I took care of it. He has me down as a city sewer, which I don't have, but I take care of that and get it pumped every 6 years like what I'm told to do by the rules and stuff. But my justification is I'm not getting the same services for that much of an increase that what he's doing is a comparison from the stuff of the city's getting it.
Madam Chair? You know, when you mentioned not having sewer, that would be more related to the land. When you appraise the site, you sit there and look what services it has. So when I'm assuming that his structure value would have no relationship to your water or sewer. It's probably just related to the structure itself. If you want to adjust for the water and sewer, then that would be an impact on the land and not the structure. Is that correct, Joe? Well, I mean, that's the way it is.
We're both throwing our hands up on that one.
But my question, when did you purchase the property?
96.
And was that house there when you bought it?
No.
And was it under the egg status when you bought it in 1996?
The land was deeded to us and we built the house in 1996.
And when did it go under the egg status where?
It's been in up until, 2 years ago, Joe, when you guys threw us out? And then we got it back in again. Deb was sitting on that last appeal. But it's been in ag.
Joe, so did you do a cost approach in this?
Yeah, the cost approach brings in the value at $355,300.
What was your replacement cost new?
For the house would be $388,100.
And I came up at 442, just quick and dirty. Because I don't think you'd replace that house today for $200 a square foot on the main level and $60 a square foot for the basement, assuming that it's finished.
It is,
So
most of it, yeah.
Not all.
I think that cost approach, that's just the way it's in that egg status, you got to almost rely on that cost approach, just the way I don't know if you remember what the house cost new when you built it.
Yeah, I do.
What was that, just out of
I
curiosity?
built the house for $180,000.
Okay. Of course, we know cost has gone up a lot since then.
Well, replacement, yeah.
Your own neighbor?
I don't have any neighbors. I mean, that's why I'm saying my closest neighbors, he's comparing it to the values that are people living in the city. I don't live in the city, I'm county.
No, I was talking about when you built your house, that was your own labor?
Mine what?
When you built it?
No.
Do we have a motion?
Again, I guess what I'm trying to say, I'm not going in there thinking that there shouldn't be an increase. Again, I understand the cost very much. I look at what the county spends on the roads, $110 million budget compared to maybe 10 years ago it was probably 60. And like you said, you don't like the percentage part, but that's really the only way you can really base when you're living there of that kind of increase. So like the gentleman before, yeah, he was getting mad and stuff, but his went up, he went down. I understand the steady an increase. I mean, I work for a business that stuff goes up. But when you see a percentage in the last 3 years go up 35% with no change, well, you guys are going to base it off a market value in the surrounding area. But I'm not Red Rocks. I don't have that curb and gutter. I don't have any of that stuff. So that's my justification of that much of an increase is where I'm at.
Madam Chair, I
Commissioner?
know you're not in Red Rocks, but do you think there's an advantage of having 40 acres and live where you do? I mean, there is an advantage here.
There is?
Sure.
I have a lot more responsibility part.
How many, if you sat there and tried to find a property like that in that location with 40 acres, that would be pretty rare. And there is
So
value in it.
I'm penalized for that, is what you're saying.
I'm not saying you're penalized. We're just trying to establish what we feel is a fair assessed value and try to base that on state statutes and the market.
And I understand what you're saying on that aspect, but I'm not quite getting the same, I guess what I'm trying to say is, I'm taking care of my stuff, and you're basing it off around there just because I'm one of the rarities that has that option. So I'm gonna, how do you want to say it? Swallow every year.
I think what we're trying to say is if you put your property on the market.
But I'm not.
But if
Kelly,
you did,
let him finish then.
I'm sorry.
trying to make a determination what that market would be. And I don't know that there's a crystal ball out there, but we're just trying to take the information that's available and apply it to your property. And some of it's subjective, but I think there's a lot of solid market evidence there too.
So I tend to agree with Mr. Ross Connect. I mean, a lot of our concept when we talk to constituents and so forth, what did we get out of this? These guys' job is equalization, is to be equal and fair to everybody. I mean, that's why they have these things set up. So I think there ain't one of us up here who does not feel your frustration of what's going on, but and how that's set up. But I think they've trying to do as fair as possible. And you've seen, if you've sat here throughout the day, you've seen other people that have appealed and seen things come back, and then we try to make it fair so it doesn't seem like it's so big. But I just wanted to express that, that's what they're trying to do, is make it equal and fair to everybody. I understand your argument about the services you don't have what a lot of the city people do, but, you do have something that they don't have too. So, I mean, there goes both sides a little bit.
Joe sent me some stuff of previous sales. How can some only go 5%? Some went down, some went up 10%.
Yeah.
Going up the road. I mean, so that's why I keep going back. I understand an increase in stuff, but I went up to Highlands Ranch. You didn't show some of those, and they get some of the other stuff like not public water, but they got their own community water systems and everything else. Joe gave me these numbers. I look at their percentages. They went up 4%. One went down over there in Whispering Pines. I guess that's what I keep trying to say. Where's the boundary?
Definitely, some of the people within the agricultural reassessment went up considerably more than
You didn't send me any of those. With some
their total property, not the sale. They weren't sales, just
Okay, board.
in general.
We've had some discussion. Do we have a motion?
I got one last question, Deb.
Commissioner Roskinick?
Kelly, I'm just trying to understand, is the issue here today the amount that the assessment went up?
Yes.
And how it got there, or is it the final assessment itself?
I was here, well, I was told that Joe, because if you wanted to talk and appeal this, you can make an appointment. I'm just here to say, I just have a hard time swallowing that much of an increase.
The final number, or how the final number was arrived at?
My final number?
No, Joe's final number, is that the number that you don't like, or is it how he arrived at that number?
I guess I based off of the number that he come up with, then, and I understand that it's based off the state of the revenue. I understand the process, but I'm just still having a hard time swallowing the percentage of the increase of the assessment of the house.
Madam Chair,
Commissioner DeSanto?
if you come up with the average, this last comparable, I don't understand the square footage of the house is 3,463. Somehow the sale value was 294.4. So I don't know if that house is really in bad shape or what the situation is. But if you take the other three comparables and you come up with the square footage cost of those other three comparables, which they seem very comparable, you'd be at 193 per square foot. If you take that 193 per square foot, multiply it times his square footage plus 4,500 for the ag building plus 800, or 4,500 for the ag property plus 800, you come up with 352, 338. My motion would be to assess him at 352, 338.
I'll second for discussion. Is there any discussion?
I just, as a follow-up, I would
You want to
I would like
substitute
to
motion?
see, next year, I'd like to, if there's an increase, I'd like to see what that increase is, because if there's an increase, we better have a reason for that increase.
Again, a little increase.
But just,
Again, I
yeah,
understand.
there's gotta be some rationale behind it. I totally understand that.
That's what I'm trying to get at. I mean,
I don't know if we can do anything today, but, well, I guess they are, but I would really watch that and bring it to our attention next year.
Well,
If
we all
it's-
own
if it's
a
over
house. We all
2
look at it pretty
If it's
close,
over
don't we?
2.3%, I would like to know about that.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
we do have a motion on the floor.
One more thing. My concern, Kelly, is
no, I'm
is
Jim.
that
That's okay. That's my wife, Kelly.
oh, sorry. My concern is that I'm suggesting this amount because of the averages of all of the comparables
Okay.
per square foot. But I frankly
Okay.
believe that your house is far more valuable. I think that, and I know you don't want to sell it, but that's kind of what we got to base this on. I frankly feel that you could probably sell your house for in the 390s or better. And so, I think that we're giving you a fair turn at 35.23. But don't be surprised if we get some comparison sales up there next year if it jumps again. And so, do you want us to reduce it some now and then see another huge jump next year? Or do you want us to go where, that's the difficult part of this, is that if we under assess you, you're going to see that huge jump sometime. It's going to come because we're going to have other comparables that tell us we weren't wrong last year when Joe assessed this. So,
Okay,
Just to follow up
just
too.
hold on, Lloyd. If we could, we need to round it to the nearest hundred, so I could amend it to 352.5.
that's fine.
Commissioner DeSanto, because we need to.
I'm okay with that amendment.
Okay. Commissioner LaCroy, please.
I was just gonna remind Joe, like next year, what you're gonna do is it'll be recessed at 359.8 probably, or more, right? I mean, you're gonna come back to your original, so don't be surprised if, like you said, if it doesn't come back increased, you're gonna see some.
I understand increase is
Okay.
increase. I'm not going way out there. You guys got a big budget you have to balance.
Well, the good thing is that, and it's not just that, and I've explained this with every person that's been up here, the good thing is that our values in western South Dakota are going up. And for people that want to stay here forever and stay in their place forever, that hurts.
Yeah, because it's getting more and more, less people to be able to afford a house.
Right, but.
Look at these apartments, sorry to interrupt.
But for the people who bought their house with the thought process that this was their biggest investment they've ever made in their life, and eventually they're gonna sell it, it's a great thing, and everybody's happy.
That's the golden egg.
I got it.
Okay, guys, we do have a motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Wisegram.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Next, we're going to do Scholes, Joe, Roger, and Kathleen. They do go into, Roger is at the end of the 2:30, and Kathleen is at the 2:40. We're going to do both at once, if that's okay, Joe?
Yeah, and I was out on their property and visited with them as well and talked to them about the recommendations that I'm making here today, and they were both okay with that value.
So 19386 first, please, Joe?
I'm recommending a value of 94,600. That's 61,300 in the land, 8,300 in the agricultural buildings. The non-agricultural buildings, 33,300, plus the exemption for the ag buildings of 8,300, for a total of 94,600.
Thank you, Joe. Do we have a
That would be
motion?
my motion.
Motion by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Item, or Kathleen Schell, 16534, please.
I'm recommending 168,500. That's 130,300 on the land, 4,500 on ag buildings, 38,200 on the house. With the exemption of 4,500, the total will be 168,500.
We have a motion, please.
So moved.
Motion by Drews, second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Now, the phone calls that we missed on the first set, guys, that would be the Shannon Bridge.
Let's do Cole,
2:30.
Dennis and Lisa Cole,
Okay.
and then we'll do Bridgewood.
Okay,
Dennis and Lisa Cole are 3 lots in Hill City. So there's going to be 3 different tracts of land on this, and then the rest of them are going to be commercial properties.
where's that at, Shannon? I'm sorry.
The bottom of the first page, Dennis and Lisa Cole, the last line.
From the first
Yeah, I'm
session?
looking for
From
the
this morning.
information here that,
Yeah.
First session? I'm sorry, Shannon. Yes, sorry, right here?
Last line. Yep.
Yes, sir. Okay, and then the other one would be the Bridgewood, and that would be the only one on that page, right? Do we get them all after that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
And then when this is done, we'll pull up Bridgewood Estates.
Thank you, honey. Okay,
We did Blake, correct?
Shannon, or Joan's getting her on the phone,
Yes.
and her name's Lisa Cole is gonna be on the phone?
I don't know which one of them.
Okay,
I must have 2 of those Blakes.
Lisa? Dennis?
Dennis, can you hear us?
Yes, we can now. Yeah, barely. Yeah.
Yeah, we can barely hear you. Can you speak up?
Okay. Can you hear us better now?
Barely. That'll be about the minimum, I think.
Okay. Well, we'll speak as loud as we can.
So, Miss Candace, do you want to go first?
Sure. My name is Candace. I'm an appraiser with the Equalization Department. We have 3 bare land parcels in Keystone that we'll be looking at in regard to this appeal. So the first one, there's a map that has 2 different subject parcels on it. We'll look at that one first. Parcel 68803 is a .16 acre parcel. I would recommend that we uphold the land value on this bare land parcel at $13,600. Just to give you some background, the owner did take the appeal to the local boards. The local boards did make an adjustment from $13,600 to $9,300. The subject parcel is a .16 acre lot located within Keystone city limits and has access to city water and sewer. The reason for the increase in value on this parcel for 2019 was that we had completed a reappraisal in the Keystone, within the Keystone city limits in 2018. And this parcel and the next parcel we'll be discussing were assessed as one tax parcel. However, when completing the reappraisal, the parcels were split into 2 tax parcels. Each parcel has its own legal description, and each parcel can be sold as an individual lot and is buildable. Once split, each parcel was valued the same as any other parcel within the Keystone city limits of the same size, to be equal to everyone there. I also have some sales. Okay, Deb's working on pulling up the map that I handed out to you. So all of these sales are within the Keystone city limits. All of these sales have access to city water and sewer, and they're all right in the direct neighborhood of this parcel. So I have parcel 3570, it's the parcel on the map, to your right at the top. It's a 0.16 acre parcel. It sold in December of 2015 for $16,200. The next one is parcel 41055 and 41054, sold together as a 0.1 acre parcel. It sold twice in 2018, once for $25,000 and once for $22,000. I also have parcel 46900, which is a 0.37 acre parcel. It sold in 2008 for $75,000. And I have parcel 46905, 0.17 acre parcel that sold in 2018. Extracted land value out of that sale is $27,300. So you can see from the sales that the property in this area sells very well here. And so that's the first parcel that we wanted to address again, 688013.16 acres. And my recommendation is to uphold the value of the county assessment at $13,600.
So this is 68803.
Yes.
Okay, here's something. So last sale price, but it was for both 68803 and 6804 for
Yes.
46?
Yes, they
So
both
both
sold.
those each?
No, for
of
the
it
2
together,
parcels.
right?
Yes.
Okay. Just
The
to make
other
that clear.
parcel, just so you know, is 0.15 acres, so it sold as, when it sold, it was 2 separate parcels, and then it was combined as 1 tax parcels, but they're legally 2 separate parcels.
Thank you. Questions, or let's go to the applicant. Mr. Dennis Cole, please. Dennis?
I can't hear.
Can you hear me, Dennis?
We can barely hear you.
That's be a first. What we're asking you is if you have something to tell the commissioners on your property. We're talking about 68803 right now, sir, for 13,600.
Well, could you give me a percentage of how much they increased in value?
From before it was a split parcel?
Appraisal?
Are you talking before it was a split parcel, sir? Because if you looked in 2012, Mr. Cole, if you looked in 2012,
The percentage.
the parcel for 68803 and 68804 was 46,000. Now it's 13,600 on 68803 and 68804, it's
12.9.
12,900.
Can you give us a percentage of increase of the new appraisal?
Anybody know that?
Less.
The total on the parcel prior to splitting was 21,200.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't bring a calculator.
Do you know your
25,000.
property went down?
The 46,000 was their sale price when they bought it.
That's what I'm saying. Now it's 13,600 and 12,900, right?
But they're asking the difference in assessed value, so.
I can't hear.
They can't.
Bear with us 1 second.
They can't hear us. So Joan can they do something else with their phone? If you have a speaker phone, you have to turn that off, sir. You have to just get on your phone and speak through your phone without the speaker to hear us and us to hear you.
We can only hear one of us at a time at that rate.
12.5.
Well, right now, you can't hear any of us, so in order for this to work, you're gonna just have to hear one and repeat it to the other.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Can you hear better now?
I can hear you good. Can you hear me better now?
Yes, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay,
It was a 12.5% increase from prior to the split.
12.5
Totals.
increase for each lot.
No, a total of 12.5%.
6.2.5 then, 2.5, sorry.
You're talking about the two separate lots.
Yes,
Yes.
the parcels on Casey Court that were split, that were prior
Yes.
one
Yes.
tax.
So your property went down on 68803, sir,
On
and
that last year.
Pardon me?
What was our previous appraisal value?
When they were assessed as one parcel, it was 21,200.
21,200.
So you divide 21,000 by 200, 21,200 by 2. So that means both lots appraised at what?
25,
11,000, somewhere in that area.
Well, it was assessed as 1.31 acre parcel. It didn't give a value for each.
So if you would divide that by two lots, each
10,600.
lot would be appraised at, what, 11,000 or so?
10,600.
Right, but now they're assessed as every other parcel in Keystone of the same size, and they each have their own parcel and can be built on each one of those.
So if you divide that by 2, and it was appraised approximately 10,600 each, and what did it go up, the new appraisal each, how much did it go up?
The .16 acre parcel is at 13,600 was the mailed out assessed value. The .15 acre parcel was at 12,900.
So the increase from 10.6 to these new increases, like 13,000 whatever, is more than 12%.
Well, sir, I took the total of the parcel when it was assessed as one parcel and the assessment now of the two separate parcels, and that was the increase of the difference.
So, I guess I'm not,
Correct.
Mr. Cole, Mr. Cole, hold on a sec. Mr. Cole,
Instead of one lot now.
you can't hear me. Mr. Cole,
Yes.
didn't you buy both these properties for 46,000?
Well, I don't have that figure in front of me. I'm just talking about.
What I'm saying is it says your sale price was 46,000 for both these lots. You are now assessed for both these lots at 26.5, sir.
Well, I understand that. Our big argument is the percent they increased in 1 year as far as assessment. And especially the next lot we're going to talk about.
Okay, let's talk about these two. We do have a question from Commissioner Roskinek, sir. Go ahead, Ron.
For your information and for the commissioners, I'm looking at the sales. The last sale of your property, when it was .31 acres, you bought it for $3.40 a square foot. I've got 4 sales within close proximity to your subject. The high is $4.65 a square foot, followed by $3.68 a square foot, followed by $3.18 a square foot, followed by $2.34 a square foot. You're currently assessed at $1.95 a square foot. I would probably leave this alone.
Well, that's not the point, though, Mr. Commissioner. Our point is that they raised the assessment several percentage points in 1 year. Why can't they even that out like 4 or 5% every year?
The market dictates that, sir.
That's what we're going to talk about. They raised it 25% in 1 year.
Okay, sir, we're talking about these 68803, sir.
I'd make a motion to accept
On
Candace's,
68803, Commissioner.
yeah.
Motion by LaCroy, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Drews, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next is 68804. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the same motion on that one.
Motion by Drew, second by Hadcock.
Okay.
Sir, do you have anything else on parcel 68804 you'd like to talk about?
Which one is that?
That's the other part of the split parcel,
The 12-9?
the .15 acre on Casey
No.
Court.
You guys have already got your mind made up on those two, so let's just put them by the side and let's go over our last parcel we're having.
Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion and a
Madam-
second?
Madam Chair, may I say something?
Yes, sir?
Maybe this will help him. Mr. Cole,
Yes,
you're asking why the significant jump. You haven't been at the commission meeting for the last 4.5, 5 hours. Everybody's asking about the significant jumps. The significant jump is due to two things. That property values have increased, obviously, when with the comparables. The second thing that it's due to is that they reassessed that area that has not been assessed, physically assessed, in how long?
9 years.
In 9 years. So that's why you're seeing this significant jump now, because now those properties have been physically assessed. And, of course, property values in the hills are increasing. So hopefully that answers some of your questions.
yes, we realize there's an increase, and we don't mind paying an increase every year. And it's not our fault that the properties had not been assessed for 9 years. But, you know, just like I told the assessor lady, my Social Security did not go up 25% this year, but our property taxes did. And we have other costs raising higher. But so, you know, I wouldn't be opposed for 5, 6, 7% every year. But when they go up 25% on that one lot, that just seems like a big percentage in 1 year. Why don't they stretch it out over a few years?
All right.
Sir? Deb?
Let's go ahead so he can move on to that next lot. Let's vote on this one and then move on to 63667, if we could. All right, motion and a second has been made. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Now, sir, we're on lot 63667.
Yes, this is a .74 acre lot up in the same area that we were just discussing. This one also went to local boards. I recommend that we uphold the value of the 2019 county assessment of $37,300. The local boards lowered the value to $25,777. This is a .74 acre lot in Old Keystone, level lot within city limits. City and water and sewer are available. The parcel has a beautiful view of Mount Rushmore from the lot. The lot is buildable. Again, a reappraisal was completed in the Keystone city limits in 2018, and the last reappraisal was in 2009. Parcels within the Keystone city limits that had a view of Mount Rushmore did see an increase in the land value, as we see this in the sales throughout the county here. Sales in the county indicate that parcels with a view do sell higher, whether it's a bare land parcel or an improved parcel. Their parcel is not the only parcel that saw the increase. Up here on Columbia Avenue, Casey Court, in that area, you do have a nice view of Mount Rushmore from the parcels. I do have land sales to go over in regard to that too, and that's the second map that I handed out. So I have a .18 acre parcel 59030 that sold in 2016, and I extracted the land value from the 2016 sale. Again, this is a 2-year-old sale. The extracted land value was $39,812. I also have a .64 acre parcel. It's parcel 2844 that sold in 2014. Again, an older sale. However, it sold for $42,406, and that was a bare land sale. I have parcel 46900, a .37 acre parcel that sold back in 2008, and it sold for $75,000. It does have a view of Mount Rushmore. I have parcel 46905, bringing this one into the picture because it is a .17 acre parcel that sold in 2018. It does have a view of Mount Rushmore, and the extracted land value for the .17 acre parcel is $27,300. Again, the subject parcel is 0.74 acres. It's parcel 63667. It sold in 2010 for $100,000. So I would recommend that we uphold the value of $37,300.
Madam Chair.
I'm going to have Mr. Cole speak first, Ron, if that's okay. Mr. Cole,
Yes,
Dennis, okay, go ahead and tell us what you're thinking, sir.
my first question is, why haven't they did a reappraisal sooner than 9 years?
Well, sir, we go out through the county every year and do reappraisals in different neighborhoods. So we are going to neighborhood that need to be done each year.
Madam Chair.
Hold on, just a sec.
Well, can you give me the percentage of how much the appraisal raised on that lot?
25%.
25%. Yeah, that's our main point. We don't mind the increase, but 25%. Did you guys get a 25% raise on your salary this year? We did not. We're on Social Security. We did not get a 25% increase. If they want to increase the lots, that's fine. Go out and appraise more closely every 1, 2, 3 years, and only raise it 5 to 7% instead of a 25% raise all in 1 year. It's just hard to budget that kind of stuff.
Madam Chair.
That's our main point of the whole deal. We don't mind it being assessed and maybe higher, but a 25% is just is just unrealistic for us.
Mr. Cole, I'm going to have Ron Roskinick visit with you for just a second. He kind of does appraisals too, so maybe he can give you a little bit of explanation, then Commissioner DeSanto.
I'm going to let Mark do the explanation, and then I'll just do the numbers.
Okay, go ahead, Mark.
Mr. Cole, Mark DeSanto again. If we wanted to hire enough appraisers for the county to appraise every 3 years, we're going to increase the cost to the county taxpayer in order to do that. And everybody's going to complain about that because we're going to increase, how many people do we have in our assessor's office right now? 15 appraisers. If we doubled that, which is what we'd have to do it every 3 years, let's just take it at an average, and I think this is low, 65,000 times 15, it's an extra $975,000 a year that the county has to absorb to pay these assessors to get these appraisals done every 3 years as opposed to every 7. So that, I think, would also aggravate our taxpayers tremendously.
If the budget was budgeted where they could allow that much money, but it would be more fair to the landowner to assess it more often instead of once every 9 years.
Gary, will you explain?
We owned that lot for 9 or 10 years, so you might say we've been getting off easy for 9 or 10 years, but I wouldn't have minded if paid 3, 4, 5%, 6 or 7% increase every year instead of 25% in 1 year. That's our big hang up, that big percentage in 1 year.
Okay, Mr. Cole, hold on just a second. Mr. Drews, please.
Mr. Cole, this is Gary Drews.
Yeah.
One of the things that's being confused here, I think, is that property valuation is different from what's assessed for taxation. So you may have property that goes up by 25% in assessed valuation, but that doesn't necessarily mean that your taxes are going to even increase. Are you following me?
Oh, I'm following you. So if let's say countywide that there's a probably increase of approximately 4 or 5% every year, why not raise the taxes 4 or 5% every year and halfway keep up with the property appraisal instead of waiting 9 years and raising it 25%?
All righty. Thank you, sir.
I'm not trying to run your business anything.
Nope, you're doing just fine. We're just trying to explain it to you, right, sir? But we're going to go ahead and make a motion, and then we can have more discussion. So the motion If we could have a motion from the board?
Can I speak before we do that?
Hold on just a sec. Let's do a motion, then we'll have more discussion, Ron. Do you have a
So
motion?
moved, 37,300.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. We do have some more discussion. Ron Roskinek, please.
Yes, Mr. Cole, here's the numbers.
I know there's probably no state law, but I mean countywide law. I mean, could you put a maximum cap of 10% a year at the most that your assessment could be raised? And that would be a little more for people to understand instead of a 25% increase. I wish that my income went up 25%. I wouldn't care if you raised it 25%. But it just kind of puts us. I know you're in a tough spot. You have to satisfy the taxing people, and then you got to satisfy the public, and it's not easy.
All right, sir. We're going to have Ron Roskinek speak. Go ahead, Ron.
Mr. Cole, the sales that I have here, I'm looking at the larger parcels, one being the last one that you bought for $310 a square foot, the other two in close proximity, 152 and 112. They're recommending an assessed value of $1.15 a square foot, which I think is very fair, and unfortunately, it took 9 years to get to that number.
All right. We do have a motion on the floor.
Let you all go. It's been nice talking to you. We have a different point of view than each of us do, and I kind of think most of your minds were made up before the call. So we have a visitation we have to go to right now, but you guys just go ahead and do whatever you feels right. But I'm just kind of voicing the opinion of a taxpayer.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Cole, and we don't have our mind made up, but we do listen to the discussion, sir, and we appreciate your time and your politeness today. You have a good day, sir.
Well, I appreciate your calling, but I think your mind was already made up for yourself. So.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
You have a good day, sir. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries. Thank you. We had Bridgewood Estates next.
Madam Chair, the very last appointment today is W&W Development Company. The owner is here. He says he's got a 3:30 appointment.
Okay, let's do it.
I would suggest you do him because he cared to
Okay.
show up.
That's good.
Good.
Okay. Trent, you go first, and then we'll have the applicant, if that's okay, sir? And we'll have you, what's your name, sir?
Ted Wolk.
Ted. Thank you, Ted.
I was thinking about running for county commissioner, but after this, nope.
Trent.
I'm Trent Gonzalez with Pennington County Equalization. I have a recommendation for this property, and the tax ID is 31684. My recommendation is $194,900. The reason I came to that is our assessment sent out at $198,100. There was some concern about the garage maybe sinking. I went out, took a look at the property. I was unable to see that. However, I did make an adjustment for what it would cost to mud jack the front of the garage. That the owner had said he thought it would cost around $800 to $1,000.
Trent, could you say that number that you changed it to again?
The number that I'm recommending is $194,900.
Okay, thank you. So it was a change from 198,100 to 194,900.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
The property is a single-family residence that has been converted to a duplex. The disagreement, and some of this is the owner feels we should be taking in the income that the property produces. I have done that. I've looked at all three approaches. If we were to look at this property, I looked at the cost approach, the sales comparison approach, and the income approach. Hopefully, when you look at all three, you have a relatively similar value. Not always the case. Sometimes you get a cost approach that's like way less than what the sales is, or the income, vice versa. This property, the value that I got going through all three approaches is very similar. And I'll go through those values real quick, and then I will go through what the comparables are. But if I were to look at this at the cost approach, and it would be 194,300 is what I would feel would be a appropriate value for the cost. The sales comparison, we came up with 194,900. If I were to look at the income on the property, being as a rental, the income value that I come up with if we do the gross rent multiplier, the gentleman gets $1,950 for rent a month. A conservative rent multiplier would be 100. That would be $195,000. Would be the value. If we looked at the income and expenses, and we looked at a 9% rate, which would be probably fairly, or an 8, where did it go? Sorry, an 8% rate, that would put the value at 207.65 or 675, 207,675. I've looked at this property 3-4 different ways to come up with a value. I feel that our 194,900 is appropriate and fair. The biggest thing we always look at, or everybody wants to look at, is what things are selling for. If you look at the comps, and if you want to go to the comp page, the 5 comps that I have picked out that we use, the best 3 that I would use would be 3, 4, and 5. The reason being is all 3 of those are being, or 1 or 2 of them have been our rentals. 1 was a rental. Number 3 was at one point in time being used as a duplex. It is set up to be a duplex. It is since sold and a family is living there. And it is, if we look, I can go through all the, the year, square footage and all that stuff, and I'll go through the square footage in a second here. But if you look at what that one sold for, that sold for $195,000. And again, it was used as a duplex. Comp 4 is being used as a rental. It has not been changed into a duplex, but there are multiple tenants there, and it's being used as a rental. It sold for $179,900, and then comp 5 is being used as a duplex right now, and it sold, and it is very, very similar. I think it is actually a little bit smaller than the subject, but the setup as far as the duplex goes, it's the really close to the same as a detached garage, same as the subject. That one sold for $203,000. If I were to look at, and I know we've been talking a lot about square footage, so if we were to break it down per square footage, just a second here. What did I do with that? Just a second. Here we go. Comp 1 sold, well, start off, we have the subject valued at $89.24 a square foot. And when I did this, I looked at upstairs and downstairs because most of these have square footage in the basement that is finished, but not all of the basement is finished. The subject, all of the basement is finished. So right there, it's already kind of a little bit of inequity. However, the subject we have valued at $89.24 a square foot. Comp 1 is $84.67 a square foot. If you look at the basement, including the basement, the total square footage of the basement, not the finished. Comp 2, it'd be $84.74. Comp 3, and this is where we start with the rentals, it would be $92.33 a square foot. Comp 4, $87.67 a square foot. Comp 5, which is probably the most comparable to the subject, is at $97.78 a square foot. I would recommend that we uphold our value.
So do we have a picture of this house?
Yeah, it was,
Sorry. And it's on Fifth Street?
Yes.
Fifth Street? Am I,
on St. Francis and
On that
just
corner?
below St. Patrick.
okay. This does have a garage or doesn't?
It
Yes,
does.
two-car garage.
How much value does a garage add to it, Trent?
We are valuing the garage at $14,888.
Thank you.
5% increase.
Madam Chair,
All right, Commissioner,
when this goes to local board that went to the Rapid City Council,
Yes,
yes.
and they recommended 184.6?
Yeah.
What was their rationale?
I had given they took one of the numbers I had set as in reference and took it and used it. That number would be if you use a 9%, I think it was a 9% cap rate.
I'd be very leery relying on an income approach or a cost approach when there's doing property values, this type of property.
I would completely agree with you. The reason I went that direction is because the gentleman has stated over and over it's an income-producing property, therefore he felt I should be looking at it. I would rather go with the sales comparison because it's the age of the property. That's the best way I would feel to do this because judging depreciation off of a,
I know sometimes we try to do all three approaches, but they'll come back and trying to support a cap rate can be very challenging.
I don't disagree with you on that either. Again, the reason I looked at that was that's what the appellant had indicated is that I should be looking at what the income is the property is producing.
Mr. Volk, please.
Thank you. I had provided a report. I don't know if everybody got a chance to look at it.
Yep.
Okay, my concerns are in the first page from the South Dakota Department of Revenue, when it comes to assessments of values, it specifically says, the director shall value each article or description by itself and at an amount or price as he believes the property to be fairly worth in money. The true and fair value, full value should be determined by appropriate consideration of the cost approach, market approach, and income approach to appraisal. And my concern is you are allowing investors to put together duplexes or triplexes in the zoning area. And if you're going to do that, then you should take that into consideration. If you're going to put everybody in a catch-all situation, that's not fair. Additionally, I have on the third page, I show you my income approach. And Trent, at the last time, when he done his income approach, he didn't put in the property taxes. Now, I don't know if anybody knows how to do cap rates, but, when I'm buying a property, I look at what's the insurance going to cost, what's the utilities going to cost, what's the property tax going to cost, and you look at those and you adjust those and the repairs and the maintenance that you got to do, and that gives you a value based on the income approach. Based on 8%, if I'm going to try to sell this property for an investor today, I'm looking at $165,000, $170,000. So, again, I'm also advocating for the fact that we maybe need to look at some different categories for taxing people. One is the residential loan, as you're doing now, which is subjective, as far as I'm concerned. It's his opinion, your opinion, my opinion, okay? We should maybe have a category for people that are providing rental properties. We're paying 20% more taxes right off the bat, and everybody's complaining in town, oh, geez, the prices of rentals in this town are going up. Is it my problem? No, it's not. I got to pass the cost along. So I'm getting whacked 20% more on this property, and he wants $198,000. I'm paying $700 more already, and he wants another $140. And then the third category that I'm concerned about is for people that are retired, that are living below the poverty level. Something has to be done to take care of them, and I'm advocating for that. And on my page, second to the last page, I went in and I looked at again, the South Dakota Department of Revenue, it says establishing assessment of value of property. Item number 1. Item 2, determining the tax value. For the tax purpose, all property is equalized to 80% of its full and true value. And if you guys don't know what that means, maybe you better look at it, because I think this is saying something here that you're not allowed to do 100% of the true and fair value of property taxes. Now, I could be wrong, but according to my attorney, he says, you know, it looks like what it says there. So anyhow, I'm not gonna, I'll abide whatever you come up with. I'm just trying to make a point here because I think, you know, I'm being taken advantage of to a certain degree. I don't mind paying my property taxes and do it every year, but it just kind of, this one kind of knocked me back when I got, you know, I was paying, I think, $1,800 a year, and now I'm gonna have to raise my rents by almost $80 a month on each of those people on that property. And
Thank
that's
you.
all I've got to say.
I
Thank you,
agree
Mr.
with
Ro-
you when
Hold
you
on,
do
Ron.
it.
Just one thing. He is Trent, and he works for us. So, he's just doing his job.
And I understand
Then
that.
he comes, sir, and does his job and tells us what. So, the guy next to you is the guy that works for us, so, address us, and Mr.
But
Trent.
who pays your salary?
You do.
You do.
Okay, thank you.
Madam
But
Chair.
I'm just saying, with the people that are working with us,
I understand that.
just courteousness a little bit.
As a
Thank you, sir.
follow-up, I would like to compliment Trent because frankly, I think he did an excellent job of coming up with this assessment. He did multiple different ways to come up with the assessment, and they all came out fairly even. So I appreciate your hard work on that.
Thank you.
What I
Ron
was going to
Ross,
say,
correct.
sir, is I understand the methodology behind the income approach. And when I normally value a property and I do an income approach, the two fixed expenses are your insurance and real estate taxes. But for assessment purposes, by South Dakota statute, they cannot deduct real estate tax, which I found pretty hard when I used to do tax assessments, but that's
I
a
understand that.
statute.
I understand all that.
I
The
would
only thing
not-
I'm saying is that it says in this Department of Revenue code that I would assume every county is supposed to operate under this, that you're supposed to look at each property by itself. This is not a residential property. It's not a residential property, so it should fall under the category of a rental property, not residential. And it should be looked at like that. Now, if somebody buys it and turns it over to a residential property, fine, tax them, okay? But then also, the state law says you're only supposed to charge 85% of the full and true value. Where have we come up all of a sudden with this 100% value? That's all I'm saying. Somebody sat in a room somewhere and said, "Oops."
I've explained this before.
And I know how the book works.
And it's not how the book works. So equalization, when we put out a value, assessed value, it's supposed to be market value, full and true value, what you would buy the property for, what you would sell it for. What you are taxed on is not 100% market value. You are taxed on a percentage of that value, and that is based off of what the taxable factor that the state legislature puts out every year. This year, the taxable factor is 0.882, so it's about 88% of the value is what you will actually be taxed upon. Then your mill levy is where the other part comes on what your taxes are going to be, and that is based off of what government entity you live within. So being that property's in Rapid City, the county's gonna get some money, the school district's gonna get some money, the city's gonna get some money, and a few others, and through their budget is figure out the mill levy, and that is taken towards your taxable value. That is not your assessed value.
Full and market value should be at 88%, so you're saying
No,
this.
the full and true value is what your assessed value is. The 88% is your taxable value. They are two different
Right,
values.
that's what I'm saying. So my taxable value is still showing up, you're asking for 198,000, right? To be my
That's,
taxable value.
no, that is what your assessed value is going to be. Your taxable value, you are going to see on that this January coming up, based on whatever the commission decides right now. If it doesn't get appealed on further, your taxable value will be based off of that value, which will
Well,
be
the only
less.
thing I'm saying is, you know, the city council agreed to a number, and I guess, I don't know why we're wasting your time, my time, his time for $140. So if you want to whack me, that's fine. But I'm just saying that, you know, I just want to be treated fair, and I just think some of these things need to be
Madam
looked at.
Chair,
Thank you, Mr. Roque. I don't think we're gonna whack you, but, Commissioner DeSanto.
I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but you take what he's actually going to be taxed on is based on 194.9,
194.4, I think is what I had it at.
Yes.
194.4
171,512.
times 88%.
Mm-hmm.
88.
What's that?
88.
88%, which should come up.
171,512.
Yeah, that's right,
So what's that tax going to be
171,512.
then? You just raised me from 1,900 to 3,600 this year, so what's it going to be now?
Sir?
Madam Chair.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor, guys. Let's do a motion.
Yep.
And then we can have more discussion. Do we have a motion? Right now, it's at 194.4. Am I correct?
That's what I am recommending.
Yes.
Oh, it's 4 instead of 9.
So moved by LaCroix. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Thank you for your time, Mr. Wilk. Shannon, next.
I think Joan is trying to get representative for Bridgewood Estates on the phone.
Okay.
Bridgewood
Bridgewood
Estate,
Estates would be the second from the bottom on your first set from 11:10 to 12 o'clock.
it's our final leftover from this morning.
Yep,
It's an apartment building.
okay. Mr. Smith, can you hear us?
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. You're going to have to speak up.
Yes, sir.
Yep, we can hear you.
You're pretty soft. Just make sure that you keep it at that or a little bit higher.
Thank you. We're going to have R3 go first. R3?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay.
There are actually two parcels to this property, but they consider it all one parcel. It's apartment complexes called Bridgewood Estates. And we have two parcels, 41,951 and, let me get the other parcel number, 38,309. And I do have a handout for you commissioners. I'll bring it right up.
So R3, do we take those separately or we're taking them together because the same parcel?
Well, there are values on each of them, and they're different. So possibly separately.
So let's take 38309 first, please.
Okay, 38309.
Well, let me suggest it. So it's one entire apartment complex. So maybe listen to both R3 and Mr. Smith and then decide how you're going to act on either one or both parcels.
Okay.
The property owner considers it one apartment complex, and so do we when we value it. But there are two taxable parcels.
Okay, thank you.
Explain that to me, Shannon. Built at different times, or?
No, there are multiple buildings. I think we've got, R3, over 100 units.
We have 144 units. They were built at the same time, and so forth.
They just happen to sit on two adjoining pieces of land, two legal descriptions, but it's one apartment complex. And I think it'll make sense as R3 starts talking about apartments and how we value them.
Okay.
As you can see on the screen up here, the blue parcel is, that's a 41,951 actually though. And then the other parcel is here where I have my cursor right here. And there are other buildings, three other apartment buildings on that, and some garages and everything. We have these apartments valued at $62,000 per unit, per apartment and everything. And on 38,309 ID number,
We have a value of 5,952,000. It went up 4.2% this year. And I would recommend leaving our value there at the $62,000 per unit that we have. And on 41,951, we have $2,976,000, and that's at $62,000 per unit also. That's a 4.2% increase also. I do have I have some sales of the apartment units and so forth. Sale number one that I have is Silver Springs. It's 52 units. It's out west just a little bit, but it actually sold in 2014 for $61,788 per unit. But that was a sale in 2014. We're looking at the 2019 value here, and so if we adjusted that one, it would be well over the 62,000. Sale number two is Dakota Drive, which is just west of Bacon Park. That property actually sold in 2014 also for $56,208 per unit. Again, if it was adjusted, it would be over the 62,000. And then we have a sale number three, which is 36 units is all, but it did sell for $88,888 per unit in 2016. These are fairly similar properties. The subject property probably has a little bit more amenity than these other ones. The subject properties does have garages to them, and it has elevators in the buildings and so forth. So the others do not. And I feel our value is probably under what they would actually sell for, and so forth. If you want to look on a per square foot basis, the subject properties, Bridgewood Estates, and this is both of them together, 144 units, sold for are valued at $49.76 per square foot for just the building. I'm leaving the land out and the garages and the parking and everything. I'm just using the building valuation and so forth, because there's a couple of them that are in different areas. So, and the land value is pretty much the same, but taking just the building value only, we have the subjects at $49.76, Silver Springs at $61.80 is what it sold for. Dakota Drive at $55.31 per square foot, and the sale number three, Craft Properties, is $60.58. So you can see that the Bridgewood Estates, the subject properties, are quite a bit less per square foot as far as dollars per square foot on those properties. Bridgewood Estates also, the subject properties are larger units. I have an average of 1,085 square feet per unit. The Silver Springs one is 896 square feet. Dakota Drive is 621 square feet. And the only one that's larger is the Craft Properties, which is 1,226 square feet. Now that's a newer property also. But that's the one that sold for $88,888 square per unit. I looked at the information that the appellant, Mr. Smith, sent in and so forth, and he sent a comparable type sheet in here on different units up and down the line there and everything. I kind of disagree with what he arrived at and so forth there. There are some adjustments that I don't feel are justified quite, and so I took a look at the income approach on this property also.
Now, he sent in an income approach, and I did an income approach on the property based off of rents, expense ratios, and that type of thing. I really didn't disagree with his income approach. He sent in actual income and then a pro forma, which is an estimate. Basically, the actual came off of the actual income and expense statements from the subject properties, and his total valuation, he says right off his sheet here, total enterprise value is 9,022,598. And that's a higher value than what I have on them as a total total valuation. I have $8,928,000. So he actually came out with a higher value using the income approach than I did. One thing that he did right after that total enterprise value, though, of that 9,022,000, was he estimated equipment value at 10% of $902,260, which is we call it FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And we don't add that in the first place. We don't have any furniture, fixtures, and equipment value in any of our numbers for valuation of the property. We just don't do that. I have some information here from some of the properties that we have, and I have where they sold. I have a homestead that sold a few years ago, and it has a sale price, and then it has a minus valuation of the FF&E, which is furniture, fixtures, and equipment, for so much, and then to an adjusted sale price value. And we always use that adjusted sale price value after the FF&E is taken out, and so forth. So him taking, Mr. Smith taking the 902,000 off of his value here for FF&E, I don't believe is correct. And he actually, like I said, came out with a higher value than I did using the income approach and everything. He also had a sheet that he had an equity sheet based off of other properties in the neighborhood there and everything, and he made some adjustments to some of them. If I can show you that map up there in the blue, as we go to the east here, where's my cursor? Okay, if I go over here, here's our two subject properties right here where my cursor is right now. If you go to the right there just a little bit, there's southern, now I can't think of the name of them. But anyway, all of these properties in here are all valued at $62,000 per unit. All of these, we have this one behind even, Carriage Green is behind there. We have Southern Cross, which are these properties, and so forth. There, all of these along here are at $62,000 per unit, and that's where we're equal with all of them, because they have similar type rentals, per apartment rental and expense ratios and so forth. So I feel our values are very fair. They're equitable with the other properties in that neighborhood, and I feel that we should just uphold our value of the $8,928,000 for both properties.
Thank you. Sir,
Yes, ma'am.
if you could state your name, sir?
My name is Daryl Smith.
Daryl Smith?
Yes, ma'am. DARYL SMITH.
Thank you, sir. Go ahead, sir, and tell us what you're thinking about your appraisal, or your assessment, sorry.
As Mr. Reach spoke earlier, I did do an equity analysis on the subject property and comparables to other units nearby that I could find on a map. My first comp that I could find that was equitable to the subject property was Country Bluff Apartments, which is on 368 Fifth Street. It came out to a value of initial value of 63,603 with 108 units. My next one was Carriage Green, which has 96 units, going for about 62,000. The next one was Southern Cross, 96 units, going for about 62,000. Then the next three I found were just kind of all over the place. One was in Aspen Park, which is off of 426 East Fairmont. It's going for $45,000, and it has 81 units. The next little group I found was Vista Point Townhouses, off of 3335 Palm, 48 units. And the last one I found was Hines at Rapid, off of 4810 Shelby. It's 124 units, and it's going for $85,000 a unit. When I looked at all 6 of these comps, I looked at all of them, lined them all up, and then I did my basic adjustments, which are based on age of the property, and a slight improvement class adjustments based on year built and style of property. So when I did my adjustments, several of them went up, several went down, but I came back to an adjusted mean average of $57,493 per unit and an adjusted mean value of $56,705 per unit. That came with 104 to my subject property times the adjusted mean. They gave me indicated equity of $8.165 million. Went ahead and rounded it up to a full $8.2 million, which I thought was appropriate for the subject property. Then I went ahead, after speaking to the assessor, I went ahead and looked at the income approach and market for pro forma. On the income approach, yes, I did come back to a $9 million valuation using an 8.7 cap rate, but taking out your FF&E for all properties, including when you have a sale, seems appropriate to me more than always going to leave that in there because you still own it. Doesn't make any sense. So if you're taking out for one, why aren't you taking out for the other one? So that's how I come back to a value of $8.1 million on my income. And also when I did the same thing for the pro forma analysis or market analysis, same thing. I'm getting it coming to a $9 million valuation with a slight adjustment for the BPP or FF&E. I'm coming up to a value of $8.2 million, which is right in line with the equity for the properties that are around the area. So all the numbers kind of line up, they make sense, they match. And even if I took all the information that's given to you, which is my equity of $6,705, Department of Equalization's value of $62,000, my income approach to $56,388, and market $56,944. Add them all up, divided by 144. So add them all up, I get 58,009 times 144 units. I'm at 8.3 million, which I think is a very fair and equitable value that keeps everything in equity, while also giving me appropriate adjustment based on what's in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
I believe the value should be lower than the 8.9 million. I didn't see a reason for a 4.5% increase on the subject property.
All right. Thank you, sir. Discussion from the board? Questions?
Are we missing some of that information? Did he mention some other sales and an income approach?
Do we have any other sales that you have?
No, what he was, what this gentleman, Daryl's talking about.
Came in higher.
Daryl, yours, Commissioner DeSanto and Ron Roskinick, I think are you wanting this to be higher?
No, ma'am. I was stating that I don't want it to be higher. I was trying to get an equitable value of using.
I thought he mentioned other sales,
Yes.
and I just wondered.
No, sir. I was talking about the sales were used for, when it's a sale, they'll take the FF&E out, but why would they do it for income or equity analysis? That doesn't make any sense. So that's why I took it out in my analysis.
So you have 144 units, don't you?
Yes, ma'am.
Your average rents probably are 800 to 1,000 a month?
Say that number again, ma'am. I'm sorry.
Your average rents are probably about 800 to 1,000 a month?
Generally from looking at the rent roll, we're right around 800 on average.
Right, so 144 units, let's just say times 800 is 115,200 a month, 1,382,400 a year. That's at $800 a month,
Okay.
right? That's actually a low number, I know that, from apartments, and then utilities and things like that, of course, are taken out depending on what you're paying and costs. I own a motel, so I kind of know some of these numbers, but it also, if you're doing an income approach, it's a pretty good number at $800 a unit. So I'm trying to, to me, this sounds like a fair marketable value for 144 units at about, what, $9 million? Close to $9 million.
Richard, you got a copy of the income approach that he did?
Sure.
What, I just want the NOI.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner DeSanto.
Richard,
Yes, sir.
I think what Mr. Smith seems to be hung up on is that FF&E. Could you give another brief explanation of the FF&E? I think I understand, but he seems to be thinking you took that into consideration in his assessment, and you're telling us you did not.
Yes, sir. Commissioner DeSanto, when a property apartment complex like this sells, most times they will have a sale price, let's just say $10 million. And on the certificate of value that they file with the county here, and that has to be filed with us and everything comes over to us, most times we will find out that there's $200,000 worth of FF&E, furniture, fixtures, and equipment. And so the adjusted sale price then is not 10 million, it's $9,800,000. And so we use the $9,800,000 as the sale price that we deal with on these properties. And so we don't want to include any of that. I don't care, you know, I mean, if it's, as long as it's reasonable, you know, the FF&E would amount to, you know, the stoves and refrigerators and things like that. And you guys know I own some part of that property and everything. And so, I mean, that's fine. We don't have a problem with that. We try to adjust for all that, you know, and try not to be unfair about that whatsoever, you know, and we will discuss it with the property owners, with their tax reps and all of that, you know. That's the reason we've called and everything and talked to them. But all of these properties, as you can see along that whole stretch right there, are valued at that $62,000 per unit.
Right.
And so we're trying to be fair and equitable across the city also of this type of property getting this type of rent.
Right.
Okay, board. We do have, first, let's go to 38309.
Yes, ma'am.
Let's talk about that 5,952,000 first.
Yes.
Any discussion on that?
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
can I ask Daryl a question?
Yes, sir.
Daryl, can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Ron Roskinick here. In your opinion, would a 8.7% cap rate be within reason for these two properties?
I personally believe it's a little high. Sorry, a little. Here's where my thinking is, sir. If we just look at my equity analysis, what I've done, I've taken a look at everything in the area a little bit further than what Mr. Reed looked at. I made some slight adjustments based on age, and the value is coming down a little bit lower. It's not going below last year's value. It's just coming more in line with last year's value and not justifying almost 5% increase on it. That's essentially what I'm just trying to avoid here, is a 5% increase. A little bit, less.
Okay, so if that 8.7 is a little high in your opinion, do you have any market evidence that would support that's too high? Is there something that you can provide us in black and white that would say that's too high?
Zoned into your area, sir. I do not.
Richard?
Commissioner Ross Connect, on my 3 sales, I worked out an income approach and a cap rate off of those, off the very same identical adjustments and so forth. On the Silver Springs one, it came out to 8.4. The one that was a little bit higher, was the craft, or, no, not the craft property. A little bit higher was the, Dakota Drive one, which is much older property and so forth. That actually came out to a little bit over 9 and everything. But the Kraft property was a little bit newer, and that came out to actually just a straight 8 cap rate.
Well, based on a net income of 784,966, and a proposed assessed value of the two of 9,022,598, that indicates an 8.7% cap rate. And that cap rate seems to be supported by the market. And so just from a glance, I would say that we're fairly close in line.
Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir.
Mark DeSanto. I wrote down the numbers you gave me on the values of the properties that you researched. And what I'm coming up with, if I take those values and divide them by 5, I think you gave us 5 of them, you come up with 65,800 per unit, which is higher than what we're assessing you at.
Well, sir, I'm not asking to be assessed higher. I'm just asking for, in your analysis, to adjust for the age of the other comps in the area. And that's essentially what I'm saying, because my building's built in 1989, the Country Bluffs is 1978, Harris Green is 1995, and Southern Cross is 1995. I mean, some are older, some are younger. They're not within the same exact year. It's just a slight adjustment I'm asking for. So if it's, this is the number 8.928 million, okay, but I'm just saying that your other buildings are 6.8 million, 5.9 million, 5.9 million, and the only difference between the two is essentially mine has a few more units.
It's a lot more money.
May I show you
Okay.
something real quick? Here's one. The properties he has down there are not sale properties. They're just properties up and down the line there.
Okay, R3.
Here's is my second property, and here is Country Bluff, and he made a 17% difference in adjustment.
Okay.
And honestly, there isn't a nickel worth of difference,
Thank you, R3. Okay, guys, 38309.
I move to approve R3's recommendation of 5,952,000.
Moved by DeSanto, second by Drews. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next tax ID 41951, please.
Same thing.
Same thing. Do we have a motion?
I'd move to approve the assessment of 2.976 thousand.
So we have a motion, and do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Drews. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Darrell, for your time today, sir. Thank you for your discussion.
We got time to take a 5-minute
Have a
break
good-
or not?
When
Go ahead.
will I get a letter or?
Sir?
I think he hung up.
You will get a letter, yes.
Yes, you will get a written decision in the mail. Oh, Joan's on the phone with him.
Okay.
And then Joan is going to call the next one, which, is it Reno Gulch?
We got time to take a quick break so we can.
Yeah,
Richard.
because
5
Joan's
minute-
got to get him on the line.
5-minute break, motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thanks.
Reno Gulch.
Hello?
Hello,
Who's this?
Dan Detweiler.
Dan?
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to let Trent visit first with us, and then you, sir, if that's okay.
Okay.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm just gonna mainly go through the summary that Dan had provided and just kind of go through it bullet point by bullet point of the issues that he might have. I think it might be a little quicker and efficient. To start off, Trent Gonzalez with Pennington County Equalization. The tax ID number for this is 49367. Our recommendation, or my recommendation, is to uphold our assessment at 751,200. The property sold for $1,050,000. And I've got, so on this screen over here, I have Google Maps. In just a second here, I'll go through and I'll do a street view because I think it's kind of important. But the property was purchased, his first bullet point, property was purchased 10/31/2018. Purchase price $1,150,000 was for the mobile home. So we're looking at $1,050,000 for this property. Board of Equalization sent notice 14.57 increase year over year. That isn't year over year. That might be from last year to this year. The assessed value, yes, it did increase. We're looking at the market is how we're coming up with our values. The best way to support it through sales, income, if we can, an income approach, if we can see the income and expenses of a property, and then the cost approach. Like I said before, there are three different approaches. Hopefully you get a close number between all three, but that's not always the case. Sales comparison can show that maybe our cost tables or our cost analysis is off, or an income approach could do the same thing, and vice versa. Assessed value, so he goes through the increases from 16 to 17, 17 to 18, 16, 17 increased more than it did, 17 to 18. We can pick that apart. It's kind of moot. It's in the past. We need to look at what the value is today. Is that a reasonable market value for the property? He was uncomfortable with my responses. We've talked through it multiple times. I feel like I've answered all the questions best of my ability. If he has any more questions, I would be gladly available to answer them. He has gotten some quotes that show around $21 a square foot is what he could have a new building built for. However, that's not taking into account that the land that it would be on, so you'd want to find, how much land you're going to put on it, what the value is that going to be. And just because it's going to cost to build that does not mean that equates to market value. I think it could show that he could have storage buildings built and turn around and sell them for a profit. Our values, he's stating that we have it at $25.53 a square foot. That's not correct. We have multiple buildings on there, or he has multiple buildings. Our values range from $18 a square foot to $25.22 a square foot. They are different in ages and sizes. We did go out and take a look at them, take that into account. Older buildings have depreciated and required tens of thousands of dollars in repairs. I went and looked at the buildings. I know they're not new. They don't look new, but they also don't look like they're falling down. To me, they look like they're being fairly well maintained. Cost approach, overvalued. Comparable sales. So I have 4 comparable sales that I have come up with, and I'm sorry I didn't put this on your sheet, and I can give you the tax ID numbers. But I don't know where they go. So the first one, this sale was a 2018 sale. The tax ID is 66328. And this one sold, if you take the land that it is on, included in there, it sold for $46.78 a square foot. If you take just the building value, not the land, just the building, what it would sell for, the buildings theoretically sold for $40.25 a square foot. The property that we're looking at right now, with land, our value, with the land, our value is $32.66 a square foot. The next comparable is tax ID 58090. With land, it would be $48.56 a square foot. Without, it'd be $37.51 a square foot for just the buildings. So I think, and I'll go through these other two. So then these other two sales were 2015, and all these four sales I'm going to talk about are storage buildings. The next one is tax ID 66575. It sold for $31.28 a square foot, and I believe that was without the land. That's just what the building would be valued at if you were to look at the sale price, taking out the land value. Then the next one is tax ID 51911, and that the buildings would have sold for $21.76 per square foot. And that again is a 2015 sale. So if we were to look, from those four sales, we range in the market $21.76 to $40.25. I think that shows that our values are well within the market. I think we maybe are on the lower side of it. The fifth sale that I did include for Dan to look at was the Neighbor. The Neighbor is a bar. It's up the hill. It is not a good comparable for that purpose. It sold a decade ago. The reason I looked at that is because that is the closest sale that I could find there to kind of figure out a land value. If you were to go down that road and look at the land value on a 10-year-old sale, right next to it, the tax ID on the Neighbor is 49366. The sale of the property was $662,000. If we only looked at the land, so we would take $662,000, we'd minus out our building value, which is $231,900, and that would give a land value of $430,100. If you broke that down to per acre, and it's 5.89 acres, that would give you $73,022 a square foot, or not square foot, an acre. I apologize. We're at, if you were to look at an acre, just straight up acre value, we're at $35,088 an acre for the subject. He does state in here that he feels that we are not taking into account certain parts of the land. Not all of the land is valued straight across. We have some of it valued higher than other parts of it to take into account of some of the issues that he was stating. So the first 4.92 acres, we are valuing it at $10,000, and I think it comes out to $1.24 a square foot. The second 3 acres, oh, that's wrong. We're valuing it at $10,000. 23 cents. Okay, Arthur's right. So the residual that we're looking at, the 4.92, which is at 22 cents an acre. The main part that we would think is the better part of the property. We are valuing it at $1.75 an acre. So we aren't just like saying it's all prime location. We are taking into account that there is some depth there and some of it isn't necessarily being used. I know one of the issues that Dan had talked about was there's a section line across the north end of the property. Currently, right now, that is being used as cold storage where there are vehicles sitting underneath it. So it doesn't seem like that's a very much of a hindrance on the property as it's being used right now. I know Dan says that he doesn't want to be in that business and isn't planning on it. But I guess just from looking at the property today, it doesn't seem that the section line is causing an issue.
So that's a vacated section line? That is
No, it's still there. If
with the cold storage on it?
there's vehicles being stored underneath it, just a second here, and I can show you. So right here is that section line. And if you go out there, there's right now underneath that line, there's vehicles being stored there.
Okay.
So Dan goes into some kind of hypothetical stuff about what if the building or a business on this property makes a bunch of money? Are we going to tax the business? The income approach isn't doing what the income of the business, it's what's the income of the property. Similar to what you just looked at with an apartment building. When we look at a gas station, we were to do an income approach on that, we'd be looking at what are they going to lease the property out for, not what they're selling the Snickers for. I think there's some confusion there on that, and I explained that. And the reason why I bring that up, and the reason why I have brought that up with Dan is he had indicated that he had purchased the property based off of what it makes. And I have asked and requested multiple times for that information. He says that there's not any. However, he has purchased the property based off of that. And he's stating that he also purchased property off of a little bit of goodwill. I guess I find it hard to believe that you're going to pay $1,050,000 or $1,050,000 for a property if it's not able to produce that, just on goodwill or a whim. So I just think it would be if that's part of the driving of why he bought it, it'd be good to know that information behind there.
Right, Trent, we're gonna let Dan speak, and then if there's anything that you missed or that you can add to it, Trent, after that. Dan, go ahead and tell us kind of your version and what you're thinking, if you would, sir.
Sure. Well, Trent and I agree on many points, and we differed in some of the approach used to put a value on the property. The amount that we paid for the property is public record, and it's no secret. The $50,000 allocated to the mobile home was not because the mobile home was worth that. It was just sitting at the desk at the title company, completing the closing on the property. They figured out that the mobile home required a separate title, and we had to assign a number to it. So there was no magic in that number. But
that's technically on a different tax ID number.
We did buy the property with the idea of the income, and we used our form of valuing the property was based on income potential at 100% occupancy, plus the opportunity for the additional land and additional buildings that might be added. And so that's how we came up with our agreement for the price we paid. When we look, in part of what, that determination is what are your operating expenses? As it was, more than 1 month of each year goes directly to the county for property taxes. And we knew that going in, but it's now increased significantly under this new assessment. When I look back over 16, 17, from 16 through 19, it's a total of $117,300 of increased assessment value. And, it's not clear to me how that was arrived at. I looked at the numbers, and all I have is the raw data. I didn't look at all the tax ID comps that Trent provided because as I started to, I didn't really believe they were comparable properties, and we're kind of comparing apples and oranges. When it came time to value the property, I looked at the land, and off the bat, the 2+ acres that is the north end of the property is a combination of a slope that would be difficult to build on, north of a section line that I can't put any permanent structures on. It's true that the prior owners allowed parking there, and there's, 6 or 8 vehicles parked there. They all belong to 2 owners, and they are being moved out of there. But in any case, we can't legally do anything with that property other than mow it and maintain it. And so, from my perspective, between the grades, the slopes, and, the utility of the property, and the restrictions because of the section line, we felt strongly that limits that 2.04 acres to a much lower number. We also took the property that remains that there's a business on and valued it at what we believe the land is selling for up and down the highway there. And I didn't have a lot of data to choose from because there just isn't a lot of comparable sales that our realtor was able to generate for us. But he indicated that the one property that was currently on the market had an asking price of $34,000 an acre. It was similar property. It hasn't sold. So in my evaluation, I used that as the high end of what the land was worth. the part of the property that has the storage business on it has been improved. There's a lot of money went into foundations and gravel driveways and the buildings. And so I fully recognize that that part of it is worth quite a bit more. One of the disputes that we've discussed is the value of the buildings themselves. And as I pointed out and I've documented, if I can build a brand new building for $21 or less a square foot in 2019, then I have a hard time understanding how the county can value a 4-year-old building at $5 a square foot more than that, approximately. And Trent managed the condition of the buildings, and they're certainly suitable to be used for the business that we purchased. However, you know, I've just finished getting an estimate to replace all the defective doors. The first ones to go are the swinging doors, the 3-foot doors. It's going to cost me $800 an opening to have them replaced. There's 28 of them. The original sectional doors that were put on the larger units were just a poor choice. They've had a bunch of issues. They're ultimately going to be going through a cycle of replacement as the budget allows. So Trent said that, you know, the fact that I can build it for $20, $21 a square foot doesn't take into consideration what they can be sold for, except, of course, we can't sell them. We can sell the entire business and the property, but we're not going to sell individual buildings. And building in some, I felt, somewhat arbitrary number that they're automatically worth 25 or 28% more than the cost to build them just didn't seem appropriate to us. And so let's see what else. So in a nutshell, I felt like, you know, Trent had indicated that the sales comparison that he was using was our sale was the only number he needed. That sale compared to itself, and that established the value. I felt that that was not a comparison. That's just what we paid. On the cost approach, I felt like the buildings have been overvalued, both the current buildings and the older ones. And I do understand from looking back through the records that the earlier buildings are valued at lesser numbers. But the oldest buildings cost about $13 a square foot to build, and they've depreciated over the years. So my sense of it is that the newest building is overvalued, as are each of the earlier buildings. And in total, they've added a tax burden that I didn't feel comfortable with, especially when confronted with this increase year over year of 14.5%, roughly. And, you know, part of my concern stems from the fact that this is a very large increase. You know, this business has to be run on reasonably small margins. And I wasn't confident that this same thing wasn't going to happen next year and the year following. When you see this kind of significant increase in assessed value year over year, it causes great concern. So the hypothetical I put there because, you know, I'm trying to understand how this income approach can be used if you're valuing the business based on an assumed income, and that's what the Pennington County is doing. You know, and Trent has asked a couple of times if we had records to provide to substantiate a lower value. Well, we have 4 or 5 months of income and expense records. Clearly, we established that the price we were willing to pay is the price we paid. But, you know, literally, or what am I going to say? The notion of looking at the potential income on the property and using that as a way to increase the property taxes for the buildings and the land seemed inappropriate. And so there's the reason for the appeal.
Thank you, Dan. Commissioners, do we have any questions for Dan or Trent?
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Roskinek.
Say Dan, run. Roskinek here.
Hi, Ron.
How you doing, Dan? I think we talked about this. When you purchased the property, you indicated that you did not receive a certificate of value from the.
No, it didn't occur to us at the time of the transaction to get a certificate of value that laid out goodwill and that sort of thing. But we did search the history. The sellers gave us complete records on the tenants and showed us, how long each tenant had been in the buildings, their whole payment history and that. And so a huge portion of our decision-making process related to the fact that we had leases in place with a track record of people making the payments over a number of years. And, this is basically a retirement property for us. My wife and I bought it for the purposes of funding our own retirement. And we put significant value in that, the value of those leases, however you want to characterize them or calculate them. It was that track record of these leases being a reliable income stream that was a motivating factor for us to purchase the property.
To put that in perspective, I think we can all agree that if we were looking at a 100-unit storage facility and one was totally empty, one was 100% leased, which one would we pay more for? I know which one I'd pay more for. So the point making, sale price was $1,050,000, $50,000 allocated to the modular home. From an appraisal standpoint, then I would ask if that $1 million included any FF&E, because sometimes when you buy a storage unit, you'll buy a snow plow or other equipment, and I don't know the answer to that. And then you get the goodwill. The goodwill would be the contributory value of the leases that you're talking about. So the effective sale price would be $1 million less allocation of FF&E, if any, and less the allocation of goodwill. And those are all subjective, and that would be something that if you had a certificate of value, that would have been a time to probably allocate that. So I'm just trying to point out that a fully leased building is worth, or storage facility would be worth more than a 100-unit that was empty, and there's value in that, and it's not real property. It would be, I would categorize it as goodwill.
I understand, and the determination of what, how to value the goodwill. Honestly, that would have been a very subjective determination, maybe a collaborative discussion between us and the owners, but it didn't occur. But when you talk about the value of the buildings, let's talk about the value of the land. Land in that section line north, for instance, which I really can't do anything with, has a negative value in that we're paying taxes on property that we can't generate any income from. And so that's why I broke it down into three different pieces. I was just trying to take a logical approach. I'm certainly not an expert appraiser, but I've owned a number of pieces of property and a few businesses, and that's the approach I've taken in the past.
Thank you. Any other discussion from the board or a motion?
Mark and I were just as.
Okay.
So, Dan, if I understand it right, we can agree that, and was that a 1031 tax deferred exchange?
A portion of the funds that were used to purchase the property came through a 1031 exchange.
And normally, an appraiser will not use a 1031 tax deferred exchange for a comparable sale because it's a buyer's highly motivated. But with that being said, we got a sale price of $1 million. Suggested assessment of $751,200. That would be, I would view that as $248,800 being, could be considered goodwill or FF&E. And then I was talking to Mark DeSanto, and We do think that there should be, we should take into consideration the doors that you're gonna have to replace and all that. Mark, talk more about that.
I looked at at least what you'd mentioned, the doors that had to be replaced were gonna run $22,800, so I wouldn't have an issue with dropping $22,800 off the $751,200. But that's, I think the assessment is quite fair, in that, the values in that area and the amount of storage that you'll be able, or the taken into consideration, even if you were to rent 80% on an average, that's not a bad assessment.
So do we have a motion?
Well, give me a second.
Trent, do you have anything to fill in?
Yeah, just, I know this isn't how you value or come up with an appraisal or whatnot, but 80% of $1,050,000 is like $840,000. So, I mean, really, if you did it off of that base alone, we're still underneath the value of what it should be.
Yeah, it gets down to 760,000 is what I came up with, but I would make a motion that we assess him at 728,400.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Any other discussion?
Question, what was that final number?
728,400.
Okay.
Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, no. One no from Commissioner Hadcock, the rest aye. Thank you. Motion carries.
I would just like to say thank you for all of you taking your time. Trent spent the most of the time, but Ron as well, and the rest of the board, thank you for hearing my concerns, and thank you for that adjustment.
Thank you, Dan. You have
Thank you,
a
Dan.
good day. Next, we have Stone Ridge
Stone
Development.
Ridge Development, this is 9 parcels. Rod is going to try to consolidate them into land and building. This is commercial properties out by the new Walmart. He will try and talk groups of parcels, maybe try to move it along a little bit. Joan is calling the tax rep for this property.
Get him to Skype in.
What'd you say, Lloyd?
Stone Ridge is off of.
That phone deal, Skype is just so much better.
We won't Skype.
Shannon, is this just raw land? Raw land?
This is Byron Pennington
Both.
with Savage and Browning.
Just a second. It's both, it's multiple parcels of land with strip mall.
Okay.
Can't do it.
Okay, do we have somebody on the phone?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you guys hear me?
We can barely hear you. You've got to be sure to speak up.
Okay, I'll try to speak as loud as I can. Let me know if you're having an issue still.
And who is this?
My name is Byron Pendleton with Savage and Browning.
Byron? Did you say Byron?
Pendleton?
Pendleton? Thank you, Byron. We're going to let Rod speak first, Byron, and then we will have you speak after, if that's okay, sir?
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you, Byron.
All right. Hello, Commissioners. Rod Sletton again with Equalization. So what I handed out is these are all of the parcels that are being appealed. And it's actually going to be, I believe, 8 land parcels, which we will talk about first. And then at the end, we have where the little strip mall and the land is on one tax ID there. So I'll give you a moment to kind of orientate yourself with the map I handed out. So we'll basically be looking at the, starting with the one that's 64156. If you're looking at the map, that'd be the easiest way to start, just to kind of orientate yourself. So that's the first land parcel. And Byron, I know that you had R numbers that you were referring to, so the first one is that R30598. But I think what makes sense is to maybe talk about all the bare land first, and then at the end, we'll talk about the parcel that has the strip mall on it.
Sure.
So To begin with, the land values that we're setting, it's pretty important for us to really consider in commercial economies of scale for one, but also that we're not going to put a value on these parcels that's simply a square foot value for the entire thing. We're taking into careful consideration parcels that have different exposure, different access, different frontage. So it's not a square foot value for the whole thing. What we're doing is we're breaking it down into the first acre is worth so much, the next amount may be worth so much, and then what's left over or residual, that's going to have a value. So previously, a lot of the valuations that we had made, it was simply a square foot value for an entire parcel. So it's more equitable, more fair to break it down into what we kind of refer to as an incremental decremental process, where we're assigning a value to the most valuable piece first, and then the middle part, and then maybe the last part. So that's how my values are all set, is by a square foot value. So if we look at, well, I don't know if we want to go into all of them, but just to kind of give you an overview, that's what I want to do, is look at the land first, and then go into the building. So the first one that we're looking at, that 64156, that's set at $11 per square foot for the first acre, and then $6 for the residual. So just to follow along, the easiest way to look at this is the map that I gave you guys. So that value I derived from those sales that are on the perimeter. So right above that, we have a 1.72 acre parcel that sold in 2018, sold for $674,308. So our current value on that is $667,300. And so that's $667,300. That is part of how we established that $11 for the first, or $11 per square foot for the first acre, and then $6 per square foot for what's left over.
Okay.
So when I use that 11 and 6, that gave me the value of $667,300, which is in line with what it sold for.
And that's the piece of property with the State Farm building on it right now?
No, I believe that's a bank right now.
Okay, the bank.
Or they're
Okay.
they're either just finishing or just built a bank. So that's a bare land sale,
Okay.
which, believe me, bare land sales are critical when we're trying to establish this. We love bare land sales. So having 1, 2, 3, 4 bare land sales right around this this entire complex is very important for us to establish our value. So that the $11 per square foot for the first acre, and then $6 per square foot for the residual, fits in perfectly with that sale. So again, I'm just talking about a sale now. And then just below that, if we look at the one that is $280,000, just to the bottom right of the map, so that's a 2017 sale, 0.72 acres. Our current value right now is $259,800. In applying that same $11 per square foot for the first acre, and in this case, there's drainage. It's right next to Catron. There's a bit of a holding area there, so we have 0.13 acres valued at 18 cents per square foot, which is common throughout the county. That's typically what we assign to drainage, which is a very, very minimal value. So, so that's another place that I derived my methodology on land value. And then just below that, there's a 2016 sale, $1,583,145. So that sale also supported the $11 per square foot value that we were setting. We currently have this, just because it's kind of out of the complex of this area on Catron. Right now, that parcel is set at $10 per acre, or $10 per square foot for the entire thing. So all 3.3 acres, this particular one is set at $10 a square foot. So all of that to kind of explain where I got my $11 for the per square foot for the first acre, and then $6 for the residual. So then applying those values to the properties that have similar access, similar visibility, that are also attached to high traffic areas. That's how I got all those values that are kind of around the east side of the complex. And then if we move over to the west side, you'll see that the values are set at $8 per square foot for the first acre. And then the residual is set at $3 per square foot. And so that value was derived from the, well, there's other sales, but the strongest sale is right there with that 720,000. So that was 4.17 acres when it sold in 16. So of course, we would time adjust that just a little bit. Our current value at 763,000, that is a result of applying that $8 per square foot for the first acre and then $3 for the residual. So that kind of takes care of the overall land explanation. A big part of this, as far as Byron's conversation with me, we've had some phone calls and some emails and things like that. He had originally indicated that he saw the value of some of these lots that have drainage. For example, the 64153, about half of that one, the back of it's all what we would value as drainage. And then the 64155, the back of that is all drainage. You really can't do anything with it. And so what he had done is he had combined everything into just 1 square foot value for the whole thing. Kind of mixed in the drainage value, everything else, which is not how we would normally value land. So it's important to know that there's different tiers of value, and the last one being drainage for us having no value. And of course, we wouldn't apply a drainage value to a bare land that's perfectly buildable.
Rod, now when it comes to comparisons on the properties that have some drainage, you have a comparison with that with the piece of property that sold for in 2016 across Catron, Kitty Corner, because that piece of property also has a significant amount of that property is unusable drainage. Actually, it's wetland, I believe.
Yeah.
On the east side.
As far as a percentage of the total, it's large, but it's only 0.13 acres.
Okay.
So yeah, but if you looked at a percentage of the total, it seems big.
Okay.
So, sir, Byron,
Rod? Yeah, I'm here.
go ahead and tell us what you're thinking on your property, sir.
Yeah. So I just had one question to Rod. So when we value the first acre at $11 per square foot and residual at $6, what are we just taking the first acre at that value, or did you plot on a map? You know, this 1 acre is higher has higher use than the other ones, or we were just looking at a map and we couldn't see where 1 acre was more valuable than the other one for the residual. We got pretty confused when we started doing the multiple different per square foot valuations and kind of how we map it out. Is that just a rough guesstimate, or do you guys go and kind of map it out and actually draw out the acreage?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we're looking at is how are these parcels selling? So not necessarily in this direct complex, because I know even next year, the bottom piece, the one that we have labeled as 65498, we already have the plats. I haven't put them in yet, but they've already platted those out into much smaller pieces. So it's common to where some of these end up is going to be around an acre in size. And a lot of the sales in this area, if we kind of look not only here, but up towards Catron, where it's really been growing very strongly, our Catron in 16, the end result is a lot of those splits, and they've been getting split in every year, but they end up being about an acre. So we're trying to get ahead and say, once these are at their final point, the first acre is going to be the most valuable. So it's kind of the standard that we've set for some of these large parcels that we know are going to be split. And in this case, we already have the plats, so we know in fact that these are gonna be split. They're gonna end up being smaller parcels, so 1 acre is a common size, so that's where we place that value.
Byron, do you have another question, sir?
Well, I'm looking at something real quick.
I'll ask the commission if they have anything. We'll come back to you, Byron, if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you. Commission,
Madam Chair,
sir?
I've done a lot of work out here, and the only thing that stares at me is 64156, we got 11 a square foot, 6 for residual, and that comes out to 748 blend. But in my opinion, I do not think, as you take Fifth Street and you start going to the north, I would think that 64155 and 6417 would not be equivalent to 6416, which is located at a fairly major intersection. I'm not throwing any numbers out, I'm just saying.
Sure.
If somebody had their pick, they take the corner lot before they would the other, and so.
And just to make a simple comparison, 59896, we currently have that's on the corner, on the southwest corner. We have that one at $8 and $3. That one has excellent access, visibility, traffic. So, I mean, that one probably should be at 11 and 6, but it's not.
That was just a comment.
Do we have, Byron, do you have anything else to share, sir?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. What'd you say?
Do you have anything else you want to share with us today?
Just with the land parcels, there's 3 particular parcels that just had much higher values than other ones. And I understand Rod gave a good breakdown of how the land's valued, but R305955, if you just take the total county value divided by the total square foot, is just over $9 a square foot. Reference number R310640 is at $9.38 a square foot, and I believe it's R305958 is at $7.48. Those were really the 3 parcels that we had trouble wrapping our heads around why it was so much more valuable than these other ones that were in the $5 to $6 range. But I have nothing else to say on the parcels of land.
Thank you, Byron. Rod, do you have anything that he just explained about the parcels being $9 and the differences on the prices, or the footage, sorry?
And I guess I would, just kind of bring up the comment before that we don't have a square foot value for a large acre. We have to break it down into tiers like that because there's different parts of the parcel that are worth more. So I generally don't have the conversation about square foot values for large parcels when indeed there's different increments and different tiers when you have to consider frontage, access, visibility, all those other things, so.
So Rod, is it easier to take these one at a time?
Sure. I
that
don't
okay?
know, whatever's easy for you.
Let's start with 64157, board. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve as per Rod's recommendation.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Drews. Any other discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Item 641, or parcel 64155, do we have a motion?
No. If we can go in, because we haven't talked about that one. That one's got the building on it. So if you look at the map, or even just follow the order that these are in,
Okay,
that'll go clockwise around the property.
how about you tell me which ones that we should go next, and then we'll vote on them, Rod?
And you just did 64156?
457.
57, sir. What's the next one?
So then we're gonna skip 64155,
Okay,
and we're gonna go to 64156.
okay. Do we have a motion on 64156?
Move for approval.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by Drews. Any discussion?
Yes. Shannon,
DeSanto?
I guess the only question I have on this one is that corner lot. What is what is your thoughts on why we got $13 a square foot on the less accessible lot next door? Can you help me out understanding between 64155 and 64156?
So 64155, we have not talked about yet. That one has the building on it,
Oh, okay.
and it
All right.
has a large amount of drainage on it.
Yeah, I know that. Okay, I got
So
you.
that's, I drew a dotted line across there to show where the drainage was, so that's all one big parcel.
Okay, go ahead and vote.
That's okay. We do have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
All opposed, motion carries. Rod, next parcel?
65497.
64597, okay. 65497, board. Do we have a motion?
Trying to read the numbers. Is that 11 and 6 on there?
Yes.
I'd make the motion that we approve.
Motion by Drews,
Second.
second by LaCroy. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Rod, next one.
65498.
We have 65498. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by DeSanto. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries. Rod,
59896.
59896. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Drews,
Second.
second by DeSanto. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
59895.
59895. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
59893.
59893. Do we have a motion?
Move to approve.
Moved by DeSanto,
Second.
second by LaCroy. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carries.
64153.
64153.
Move for approval.
Moved by LaCroy. Second by Hadcock. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, motion carries.
And we already did 64157.
We did 65497. We did it already?
64157. I believe that was the very first one that you said.
Okay, yep. So we're on 64155 for discussion, right?
Correct.
Okay, sir.
So this is the property that has the building on it. And we did make an adjustment to our value on here. My recommendation is $3,661,600. So that's the recommendation. Previously, well, doesn't matter what it previously was, that's my recommendation. The reason for the change was largely due to how we were viewing the vacant suites. So this is roughly about 35% of the building does not have a tenant or no tenants in those suites. Commonly, when we've looked at vacant suites, when they're left vacant, ready for a new tenant, they have some degree of finish in it, you know, flooring, roof, something like that. And so when I initially valued these, that's how I looked at them. And then after looking at them a little bit closer, these empty suites are completely gutted. So they allow the new tenant, when they come in, to really set it up the way they want it. And just looking at the current tenants that are in there, it appears that their strategy is to really go with just national tenants. So they don't necessarily have, Bob and Joe's Custom Golf Clubs in there. They got, name brand. They got, not Polly's, they got the Subway shop. They got GameStop.
Video game.
Yeah, they have national tenants. So anyway, the point is, when these vacant suites are a lot less developed than what would be common, and this is a fairly new building as well. This was built in, I think, 2012. So that's the reason for the adjustment, was due to the condition of the empty suites. And I did receive, I got to pass this up. No, you got it. So he did send me his income information, and so based off of what Byron sent, I did do an income approach valuation. So I think you guys all have a copy of that if you're looking at that.
I don't know, I don't see it. That would help me a lot.
In the packet that I sent you with the map, it should be at the very end.
Towards the end?
The new packet you just got? Rod, is that okay if we have Byron speak for a minute?
Sure.
Okay, Byron, do you have something to share on parcel 64155, sir?
Yeah, if I could just speak for a moment. I don't know if Rod has shared with you, we've had two recent leases at this property. We had one with State Farm that was executed in September of 2018, and we had one, I believe this is the dollar store. We had a dollar store, and the dollar store went in at from years 1 to 5 at $9 a square foot, increasing to $9.50 a square foot from year 6 to 10. The landlords also gave the tenants a $175,000 TI allowance. With the second new lease, this is the State Farm lease from September 2018. The first 3 years, they are leased out at $10 a square foot. In year 4, it escalates to $16 a square foot. In year 5, it escalates to $17 a square foot. If we look at all the tenants currently in place at this property, the tenants that went in right after the building was constructed in 2012 are the tenants that demanded the highest rental rates. Jimmy John's at 25, GNC at 20, Verizon at 23. Since then, these initial leases went in, the landlord cannot get anything like they could in terms of rent rate indicated by these new recent leases. We ran a couple different income approach models on this. And Rob, what kind of income are you guys using per square foot for this in your final model?
1 second.
Okay.
Give him just a sec.
Okay, so you were asking me what I used for the square foot value using the income approach?
Yeah, well, the square foot income per square foot in the income approach?
Value per square foot is what I'm using, and that's $108.71.
Okay. Did you guys do an income approach for you get like a net operating income and you cap it out?
Yes. I have it.
What per square foot value are we using in the income approach?
That's the 108.71.
I think he's asking the net rent per square foot.
Oh, the rental rate, oh, okay.
And they're all over the board.
Oh, okay. So for the vacant suites, $18 a square foot.
$18. Yeah, and I think that's where we're having an issue with is we can't. I mean, we haven't been able to see anywhere thing around $18 a square foot with these recent leases, yeah, if anything, it's closer to the $12 range.
So just quickly to address that, the current tenants that are there, so you have tenants in through contracts through 2023, 2022. So those actual rents that you're getting, $25.35 per square foot, $20 per square foot, 23, $20, 18.75. These are the actual rents that you're getting. These aren't the market rents that I'm using. The market rents that I'm using at $18 a square foot, they actually, and I included with the commissioner's information, the flyer that these are currently listed for. So simply looking at what they're currently listing these for, they're all listed at $18 a square foot. So I really wouldn't use anything under $18 a square foot, since you currently have tenants that are above that, and you're advertising.
And just to, if I could address that, the reason that the asking rents are so high on the listings is because the current tenants, they're not trying to scare them away. If the current tenants are paying $25 a square foot and they see a listing online for, 10, 13, there's not a very good high likelihood that they're going to renew. They with the State Farm and the dollar store, the strategy was to get them on the phone and negotiate a lower value. And so I understand it was listed such high, but that's not indicative of market rent.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner DeSanto?
Ross Connect.
Oh, Ross Connect, sorry. Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I've
like
probably
a lawyer
appraised about
said that
50 of
to me.
these strip malls in my time. What I really see that I don't understand is that I'll go along with the $18. I agree with, normally there's an incentive to get somebody in and then you slowly bring that up. I would say, but the biggest thing I see is that 10% vacancy. In reality, it's about 35%, and that will skew the value terribly. When we get down here, gross potential income 568, 739, factored by a 10% vacancy, and if I add up the actual vacant and a net leasable area of 33,682, I get about 35% vacancy right now. Right. And so I don't understand. Sure. The 10 is not really indicative of this particular property, at least this year. Maybe next year that'll change. But I think something that should be addressed.
Sure. And that was also brought up in talking with Byron as well. So if we look at what's actually vacant, then 35% is what they don't have leased out. In my opinion, the reason that they don't have it leased out is they are high with some of their existing lease contracts. $18 a square foot, I believe, is where they should be, and they have all of their initial tenants that are well above that. So, and also to address the vacancy, what's common in Rapid City is not 30%. So this particular strip mall may be at 30% due to their high lease rates, but that's not what's common in this market. I have some sales that kind of support that. The highest vacancy that I could find was in Bacon Park, and that was around 25 to 30%. But that's a 1960 strip mall that has a lot of deterioration. There's a lot of reasons why that thing has high vacancy. All of the other sales that I looked at are in that 10% range, and a lot of them even less. So I'm using 10% based on what the market is telling me. If they were at the $18 a square foot across the board, I believe this would be leased out at a 10% vacancy. But because they came in high with their initial tenants, their future tenants weren't going to sign those contracts, and that resulted in a higher vacancy.
To me, it's like a double whammy because 18 could be above market. I think we've visited a little bit about that, and then getting hit with a 10% vacancy when they're actually 35%. That doesn't set good with me, that's all. I don't know what the gentleman on the other side of the phone has to say.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm not sure if you guys are provided with the operating statements for the last couple of years, but I'd just like to note that in 2018, the net operating income was $88,776. So just to stack actual net operating income compared to the model.
I'm gonna put the motion on the floor to approve it at 3,661,600. Is there a second? Not, do we have a motion? The number that Rod had put out? Rod, could you tell us that number again to make sure I'm right?
Sure, and the 3,661,600, that is a result of using the income approach based on the information that Byron had sent me.
Okay,
Madam Chair?
hold on just a sec. So that motion failed, so do we have another motion? Put a motion on the floor and then a discussion.
I'll second that.
Just a second, what?
Oh, actually, I'm gonna go back and recommend,
Okay, so you want to
Second your
substitute?
motion, right.
Or just, I'm sorry, you just go ahead and do your motion because the original motion failed.
okay, my motion would be, on the income, we came out at, yours recommendations, 3,661,600. I did a little more math, and I only used the net leasable area. That comes out to 115 a square foot, land and building. And so, just looking at it from my experience, that's spot on. So I will, that income is so subjective but when I sit there and look at $115 a square foot, know that those buildings would cost more than 115 with the total build out.
Tell us the motion first, then we'll have a
Motion
discussion.
is to approve 3,661,600.
Second.
Second.
Any other discussion?
Did you second it?
I did.
Oh.
Any other discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Byron.
Thank you guys for your time.
Have a good day, sir.
You too. Bye-bye.
Motion to recess?
By golly, you made it before 5. It wasn't looking so good there this morning.
So do we have to have a motion or just recess?
I don't
Just
know.
recess, okay.
Take it up again Thursday.
Thursday.